You went I was down there on Thursday. Not for work. Yeah.
I figured it was
No,
a.
no,
you had 8
this
earlier,
was,
so
school.
I think it's awesome
AOT's
to
in
get back.
February.
Yes, right.
Okay, since this is a separate meeting, do we have to do the pledge again? I think so.
That's up to you. You
Yeah, might
actually
as well.
never have to do the pledge.
Well, you know, we'll do it just for posterity, so if it's standalone on YouTube, I think we should do it. So please rise. Pledge allegiance, being led by Liz Bill.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we're waiting to grab Chris Kuschel and making him part of our meeting per se. And Sean, you may want to angle yourself a little bit so you can see Chris when we do that.
There he is.
Hi, Chris.
Hello.
We gotta turn you up. You're soft-spoken normally, but we really have you soft-spoken tonight. Give me a little test. One more time. We're gonna keep trying. Hold on. Go ahead. Try now. Yeah, I think that's good.
Is that right?
Go ahead.
Can you hear me okay?
Oh yeah, now we can. So this is a workshop for the board to continue and hopefully finish off the board's modifications so we can get to the next stage of the zoning amendments, the zoning code amendments, what do you want to call it, the new zoning code, all that stuff. So Carla, just maybe to kick us off here, where do things stand and what do we still need to do from yours and Chris's perspective to make sure that we have everything covered?
Ready for this, Chris? You all need to figure out what you want to put in the code, and Chris and I will put it in the code.
Okay.
No, I mean, generally speaking, no, but there are some issues that were addressed. Thanks to Ben, there's a nice chart that everyone's been using and that we have all the information in it. We can discuss that. You can discuss that. Once it's done, we do have to set it up for public hearing. We have to send it to the planning board, zoning board to look at for planning board for recommendations, zoning board just because I think you wanted to. It comes back to you folks, then it goes to the public, it goes to county planning board. I mean, you're looking at another few months. It's gonna be January, maybe the earliest, that'll be able to be adopted.
Good. Chris, anything you want to add?
No, I think if you all want to just go through that spreadsheet and see if you come to consensus on any of those. Am I too loud? I see a funny look on some faces.
Jen
not
is.
speaking.
I'm trying.
I think you're good now. Go for it.
Okay, because I wasn't speaking too loudly here, so I guess I would recommend just going through those 20 points on the spreadsheet, and if that covers everything, then I'll know what updates I need to make.
Okay. Shall we just
do you
look
want to
like
read it off then?
Up to you.
Go ahead. Kurt, we'll have Carla read, I guess, points. Yeah.
Making me earn my money.
Yes, we are.
Neutral party though.
Yeah. You will not inflect.
The way I see it, there's multiple columns. Issues, just for the public. It's issues, and I believe Trustee Baskin put the issues in, and I don't know if anybody added some issues. And then each trustee has a column for comments, and then Chris and I each have a column as well. So the first issue, I guess, is combine south and east side into R1B, I think it says. Allow two-family dwellings by SP. And then there's multiple opinions. I'm not going to read all the opinions. Look at it. Do you have it in front of you?
I do.
Oh, you're looking ahead. Okay. So discuss.
All right. I mean, one reason I put that in, I don't know if that's the biggest issue in this zoning draft, but those two neighborhoods are similar in my mind and visually. and lot size, they seem similar, so it seems like they would be in the same zone. I don't know how important the zones don't differ that much by regulation. And in terms of allowing two-family, I think there's a lot of two families already in these areas. There's a meeting of neighbors in my neighborhood a couple of weeks ago, and we had a survey, we had a discussion, and people generally were okay with two-family dwellings in those zones. There were some objections, but in general, people felt comfortable with that. So.
Okay, I think my problem with this was you're making this broad terminology about ends without sort of defining what that is on the map, so I can't really tell based on what you're saying, just using directionals, what that is to compare it and say, oh yeah, you're right or not. And so I think if you could, I think you tried to do some kind of crude drawing on a map, but it really wasn't helpful at that point. So you could maybe, outside of this meeting, just so we're not belaboring this, help us understand exactly what we should be, because Chris is going to need to know that for the map, right, Chris? If we're doing that.
Chris, do you have the zoning map that you could share your screen?
I can bring that up, yes, but to answer the mayor's question, yes, I need to see exactly what parcels you would like changes at.
I don't think that's going to happen here right now, but maybe he can give us a little bit of an estimate, at least so we're in a better spot. But
Yeah, I mean, basically where it's orange or peach color, salmon color on this map, and then the east side of the village, east of Church, are not that different except for the Chesterwood area. That's more of a suburban, has no sidewalks, and that would be this, I think, a similar zoning to the north area of the village, where
But, you know,
Chester-
I was just gonna say, the south is Church to like Ballston Ave. And are you saying essentially the characteristics of that are akin to Chesterwood? Because that doesn't make sense
no,
to
I'm
me.
saying Chesterwood is the exception. That should
Okay.
go with where there's a more suburban design.
It's similar to Colonial Hills.
Yeah, Colonial Hills.
Yeah.
Those two seem like they should be in the same zone. But by taking Chesterwood out, the rest of the east side, east of Church and Malta Ave, to me seems similar to the south side.
Chris, you would kind of need to form the same thing like what Anna and Rory had done for you at one point, I think, with some of the other streets where they basically give you this precise boundaries of the properties that probably would fit, or streets or blocks that would fit in that definition. Is that accurate?
Yes, if I have that, I'm happy to make the change. I just don't want to kind of guess at it because I don't know these streets as well. But if you want to just print this out and you know,
Yeah.
use a marker, however you want to do it, I'm happy to make that change and change it from, it sounds like from some of these parcels from 1A to 1B.
Yeah, I thought I sent something forward with
Yeah, but that's not precise. I know what you're talking about. It gave me a kind of an idea, but it actually may confuse me a little bit more on certain areas over there.
I mean, does it make sense to other people? That's just, to me, it
I am,
works, but.
not without seeing the map specifically, I hear what you're saying on it, but I don't think, the way I read when you wrote that out, I thought you were saying the entirety of the eastern R1A plus R1B, and that doesn't make sense to me. Is that what you meant? So I guess a map is necessary.
Precision,
Yeah,
a little bit more precision.
I think R1A, or would be the suburban zones with no sidewalks, and then R1B, which is Chesterwood and Colonial Hills, and then R1B would be what I just talked about.
saying the suburbs,
yeah.
but it's
Yeah,
usage, I
universal.
think, not necessarily the character, you know, if you're,
Rosewood Court, for instance.
yeah, I think you get, I'm not comfortable just going based off of the character, whether there's sidewalks or not. I mean, it's usage to me, it's
Well, they're all
residential.
residential. I mean,
It's all
uses are the
residential, but
same.
you're specifically saying places with or without sidewalks, but some of those places with sidewalks aren't necessarily appropriate for, you know, R2, whatever, R1B, what are calling it, which is more dense. Or
It-
what is your
There's
type?
very little chain difference between the R1A and B. There's a frontage difference of 40 feet versus 50 feet or something like that.
There's a little more flexibility in what you can
There's-
build too.
Well, in R2 there is, but R1A and B are pretty similar.
So what's your objective? Because
Well, just consistency. I think it makes sense. But it's not gonna necessarily change a whole lot because the usages are similar. Let me see.
The main difference is the lot area, minimum lot area size. That's in my mind the primary difference, that the R1A is basically quarter acre lots, which is 10,000 square feet, and R1B has a minimum of 4,000 square foot lots.
Mhm.
So that's, so if you have smaller parcels, then that probably does make sense, I would say, to change it to R1B.
And I don't see a big difference in lot size between McMaster, Ballston Ave, Church, and say Hyde Boulevard, for instance. They don't seem.
No,
different.
that wouldn't be true, because High Boulevard, I think, has expressly different lot sizes than some of those, along Church, et cetera, so I don't know that to be accurate. And it's not to say I disagree with the move, but I think you gotta be careful with what you're assuming there, because that's not accurate.
Um,
Some of those lots are pretty deep,
Yes,
especially along.
that's a difference.
Oh, they're deep. Oh, they're really deep in Ballston Ave too. They go very deep.
Understood, but then there's others like on Church that aren't so deep, and Rosewood and stuff like that might not be as well. So
Okay.
again, I think if we had the list of streets and blocks that we're considering making the change on, it would give us the ability to be like, yeah, no, yeah type of approach on it, so that Chris can know what to do with this map at the end of the day.
Yeah, and I mean, this speaks to the fact that this Excel came out September 4th. You provided your comments, Frank, today, I believe, and Bernadette provided them the day
okay, let's
before
keep
last.
moving forward.
I'd like to explain why we are where we are.
We
The fact
should be
that
working on
the
workshops.
fact that we will not be, Sean and I will not be able to vote on this because for the last 2-3 months, basically there's been no progress. You haven't worked on this, Frank, at all. You've given us nothing since August 1st, when you provided comments 2 weeks late for the first zoning meeting. And it's taken 3 months between the first and the second zoning meeting. And now we're saying we need additional information to
Because no one knows what you're
finalize
talking
anything.
about. That's why we're asking.
That's
for
why
time.
you give comments early, so that prior to this meeting, we can, if you ask for more information, I can provide that
You
ahead of
can't
the
provide it
meeting.
now?
So that at this meeting, we all have that information. So that we're just, we're going
Did
through
we
the
set a
motions
time
here.
limit on tonight?
I
Is it
feel
gonna
like you're
waste time
going
on
through the
this?
motions.
Next 2 hours, we'll say 9:05 now.
Yeah, so anyway, so it's
Talk
disappointing.
Substantive stuff.
It's disappointing that we are at this stage this late in the year and you just provided your comments and you want more information when that question could have been asked 2 months ago. So that's where we are now. And as a result, this will go into January and other people who haven't been involved with zoning are going to vote on the zoning. So that's fine. We're just going through the motions. I understand. But I'm glad that we at least have the opportunity to
Extensively
talk about
answered your
this.
second part of that, which had something to do with two-family dwellings. It's like, what we're asking, a little more information is just on where, but we also responded as far as like, I'm a little reluctant, expanding additional uses, for, units within R1.
And I did ask for you to clarify once, and you kind of just did a hand drawing thing of it, and it's not clarifying it to me, I'm sorry. So I don't know what else to tell you on that.
That's fine. I mean,
I
we
think
are here where we are. It's
Right.
this time of the
I think-
year, and let's just pretend we are working as a board. So let's
Do you
go
have
ahead.
something substantive in the next section? Make nursing homes
So,
site.
well, where are we with the two-family? Are people, you don't want two-family?
I'm reluctant because there's
R1B?
a lack of, well, not a lack, but single-family homes it's a struggle for people to buy them. They're not available, or they're becoming less available because we make them, multi-unit properties. And that's just my reluctance over it. If people want to have a property that has multi-units, purchase one in R2. I'm a little concerned about how we keep dividing up single-family homes.
Well, all right, well, I guess my thought is, there's a lot of multifamily homes in R1B already, many. I mean, it's up and down my street. It's almost the norm. And it would, that's what's affordable for a lot of people these days, especially if they buy a house, then they have a rental income to go with it. So I think it's a way to increase the housing stock potentially without drastically changing the footprint of the neighborhood. I don't think there'll be a huge change with this, but I think it's a good opportunity to increase the housing potentially.
And I mean, obviously you can see from my answer, I'm okay with 2. I would even do 3, but that might be too much. So,
I think there's 2 ways to look at this, realistically. In this village, we have a lot of anomalies throughout our R1 existing that are multifamily for whatever reason. Do you want to continue that anomaly, which no longer makes it really an anomaly, it makes it a
Well, it isn't
reality.
an anomaly, actually, because this is what the village is, it's what it's comprised of, so that's what's normal. So we shouldn't really call it an anomaly, because everybody loves the village character, so that's part of the character. There are bigger buildings that are multi-unit in with single family.
Let me finish what I was saying, if I could. The anomaly in this is that it was sort of, I think, a byproduct of, we slapped new zoning at some point in this village on a bunch of properties that were already in use. It wasn't like this was done purposefully. It was done basically to create a uniform zoning code, but not everything met it to start with. This might be the first time what you're suggesting that you're embracing the furtherance of that. And that's why it wouldn't be, to me, an anomaly any longer. It would become the actual reality that you're with cognizance doing this at that point. And that's what I'm trying to say. So I'm not saying one way or the other how I feel on it, because I could argue it both ways. I'm just saying appreciate what you're sort of standing in right now, because you're going to basically invite the potential complete disappearance of an R1 in that process, and I think that's what your concern is.
And I also suggested there are places that we possibly and probably should consider that they should be zoned R2 rather than R1. There's some R1 that's right attached to the downtown that makes more sense for it to be, accommodating of R2. It's funny, we have an R2, which I think is very useful. I live in R2. I mean, there's multiple family unit buildings, and luckily, located downtown. Instead of trying to force a use in R1, which is not necessarily appropriate, like think about creating zoning for, expanding R2 so that it, it makes sense in those areas. I don't know. I think that's kind of the right way to handle it, that, you're defining, hey, we see the need for multi-use, or not multi-use, I'm using the wrong word, but family units. This is where we're saying it makes sense to use it.
So I
or do
guess
that.
one way to think about it is this allowing two-family dwelling is a less radical way of increasing housing stock than decreasing lot size from 15,000 to 4,000, 3,000. We have radical reduction in lot size that in theory could allow additional buildings. And here we're not even talking additional buildings. We're just talking this, the same footprint building just two families. So it seems like a less radical and disruptive way to increase housing than reducing the lot size by, 70%, 60%.
But how do you wash that stance with what are the likely uses for Angelica? Because Angelica's got to be basically apartment type approach, because you can't have separation of ownership on that because of the DEC stance on it, you can't subdivide it and all that stuff. And the likely use of Maplewood if that building's to be reused at all. So you seem to be against those propositions generally, from what I could tell from your discussions, yet you're talking about increasing housing stock and population through these other devices in more of a rampant approach throughout multiple areas throughout the village. I'm confused by that balance on that.
For me, it's all a matter of scale. I support increasing the housing stock in this village. I would support affordable housing in Angelica or nursing home. The problem becomes when developers want to jam as much as possible on every square inch of development and create developments really inappropriate for the space, for the traffic, for the neighborhood. So I would welcome, moderate size apartments in those areas that are more than two family, so I'm not against putting significant housing in those areas. It's just a matter of scale. So here, to me, two family doesn't change the footprint of the house, doesn't change significantly the workings of the neighborhood, unlike a huge apartment complex, and therefore I'm comfortable with it. And again, I think it's better than subdividing lots and having more buildings closer together.
That's not necessarily what I'm suggesting.
But that's what we have.
Well, what I suppose I'm saying is there's a couple, it's not just like there's one near the residential area on Bath could potentially be R2, the little bit of Malta Avenue before you hit the school, that's more R2 style housing, like that, I think makes sense to kind of put the R2 sort of definition over. I'm not saying the whole of R1 or anything like that. I'm just saying, thinking about, can we be targeted about where we're saying multi-unit housing could be? And I think those areas kind of make sense to me. I get if somebody doesn't agree with me, but I do think it's an issue when we're saying all in R1 that we can have, multiple units, and I'd be concerned, okay, well, where's all the parking? Can our infrastructure handle that? Can the traffic handle that? So I guess those are my concerns, and beyond just losing the single family homes.
Let me just say the same light as you're saying. I watch population numbers pretty tightly, as you know, in the village. Okay, we've gone from 5,600 down to about 4,900 in the last 20 years. My feeling is that probably knowing what the history of this village is, and still, knowing that around us may have influenced a little bit more traffic patterns and everything because of the developments occurred in the towns around us and all that stuff. But probably the answer is what max population could the village support without overclogging itself? It's probably back to that 5,600 number. And if you look at
We're at 55.
56 at one point.
No, aren't we at 55?
No, we're at 4,900 right now, according to, they basically work for the census numbers from 2020. And so since 2020, it's gone like this. The probable reason most is the infirmary, Maplewood Manor, whatever it became known as, closing. They were considered residents. While they weren't necessarily going out and about every day, they did bring in a lot of workers, families, and whatnot. So there was still a net effect to that. So to me, I think that number still is around 5,600. That is the proper number. And when you look at Angelica, you look at the Maplewood Manor, you look at the potential maybe for Ricketts, and a couple of the minor sites along the way, and what happens with the county complex eventually too. You're probably looking at around 5,600 there at that point. I think Bernadette's correct. You can't just go and say multifamily to the world in all these R1 areas, because I think you risk really doing what I think you want to avoid in the first place. I think you are actually inviting it, is what I'm trying to warn you on here in this. And again, I'm not trying to take a position. I could argue it both ways, Ben, but she's got a valid point, and knowing what we have in the future in front of us and the likely uses of some of these properties is mixed use most likely, but, you know, upper end or upper floor residential on those. You got to be a little cognizant about what you're going to do to the density of this village down the line with something, with that zoning approach.
Okay. So why, well,
Go ahead.
I'd like to say.
Sure.
So probably 10 years of my career, I did traffic impact studies for private development. And here are the facts. The facts are that if you have two families spread over, let's say, a whole street, their traffic impacts, all their impacts are far, far less than one apartment building at one address. That's just the facts. So I just don't see any argument about density because two families are the way to limit density. Apartments are the way to exponentially increase density. And all the impacts are in one little spot as opposed to spread over a neighborhood. So the argument you make, and I don't agree with. And it's based on years of expertise and experience.
Your argument is a micro view. I'm looking at a macro view, okay? At an entirety of a village that basically is interconnected in that manner, especially in the downtown where everything feeds into, where the Saratoga County center essentially for a reason, county seat. And everything kind of flows into our center at the end of the day. So
Well, absolutely. So therefore, your argument is even more
I
irrelevant.
didn't interrupt you. Yeah, I think we've chosen this method of trying to reseat ourselves in the library because we want to have calm conversations.
I understand that.
And rational approach on it, so let's do that, okay?
But-
I'm just saying, you took a micro view, I'm taking a macro view, what pouring everybody into the village center, traffic-wise and everything else, can do. Again, I'm not taking a position here either way on this, I'm just trying to give you kind of the things to be aware of. I understand your point. Yeah, on a street, it might not make a difference, but on 40 streets, it could make a difference, and should make a difference probably.
Right, and if you allow the same per unit development, your argument is just completely inaccurate, because by the macro, you're gonna have the same amount of
I
traffic.
think, do you want 2 to 3 family or do you not?
So,
I mean, isn't that really what the
let me ask
question
one
is?
question
Well, I've
of
been wanting to say
Bernadette. Bernadette,
something
do you,
for a bit.
do you support?
That's
Bernadette,
okay, no,
do
hold
you-
on, I wanted to talk, but go ahead, ask your freaking question.
Okay.
I'm frustrated because I tried to say something and
Go ahead.
forgive me. To be clear, when I am suggesting the expansion of R2, I am thinking in the context of like something like Mechanic Street. I live on Mechanic Street. It utilizes existing buildings and breaks out those buildings into apartments. I am not talking about like huge, I don't know, at least I just want to be clear, that's what I'm talking about. I don't know what you guys are
We're
talking about at this point.
two-family dwellings, two-family dwellings.
So what I'm saying is like, and again, look at Ford and Mechanic Street, Ford on the east side. And a little bit of Van Buren is currently marked that way. And then you have the downtown center zoning on the, obviously, Milton Avenue. But I just think you got buildings that are kind of, I'm not talking about huge buildings as far as apartments in R2. I'm just talking about existing buildings that could be maybe 2-family. And so I just want to be very clear, and I'm not sure what the two of you are talking about at this point, but this is what I'm talking about. It's
I'm not
smaller.
sure what you're talking about, because we're talking about 1B.
Well, I'm
Yeah,
saying I don't think
2-family.
your approach makes sense to me. And I'm suggesting that we should instead allow an adjustment to the proposed map, having a couple areas that make sense to me at least, and I certainly would love Chris's opinion on this, to make those R2, so we can say multi-family units can be here. We're preserving as best as we can the single-family homes in R1. But I don't know, I just think it's appropriate to kind of say intentionally, we'd like some more options as far as affordable housing, which is apartments. And I don't think personally that it makes a lot of sense to scatter around and potentially add to, a lack of single family housing, and then also as much as you say it's not an issue, but I do have concerns about traffic. But anyway, I am saying that the downtown area where there is residential is not zoned downtown right now, but I think it makes more sense for that.
So Brenda, I have a question for you. Do you support the big reduction in lot size? And what is your rationale if you do support that, you know, the 4,000 and 3,000 square feet? Because that implies additional building as well. Do you support that?
I think we have to look at it a little more closely. Maybe it makes sense. I don't know. But I think that the end answer here is you want more housing. I think it makes sense to have it in this area. I don't think people are potentially going to tear down buildings. It's easier to build than what you already have.
I'm not talking about tear. We've had this draft since April or August 1st, this latest draft, and even before that, the lot sizes, I think in June draft, were reduced down to 4,000 and 3,000. So you've had months to think about it. So are you saying you don't have an opinion? You don't want two-family dwellings?
Stop putting words.
But you're okay. I'm asking you a question. Where is the consistency?
Ben, let's get context for a second. Chris, what was the reasoning for the lot size reduction? Was that to match what the currently existing lots are? Is that what that was?
That was the logic. It was mostly from Anna doing that analysis to find what that appropriate amount was, what that lot size was. So it wasn't intended to further densify the village. It was intended to reflect what's there today so that a lot of these lots would be conforming that are currently non-conforming in terms of their lot area. That was the intent.
But it could lead to additional concentration of housing potentially. And if you want to talk about conforming to what's there today, certainly in R1B, there it is strewn with multifamily housing up and down all over the place.
But you're relying on a tear down and
no, there's no tear down.
Subdivision of a lot, basically, because that's what it would entail to. You're basically saying, hey, Bernadette, you're supporting a smaller lot size because that will do a density change or create a density change. And the answer is actually no. What we apparently were doing was embracing what's out there currently. And is somebody really going to, on a larger lot, tear down a house, split the lot, and build two houses because suddenly the lot size decreased?
Well, they don't have to tear down the house.
They would have to subdivide.
Well, they may not have to tear down the house.
But I think that's irrelevant. I think really the argument here is we already have.
Well, he was asking the question, Sean.
Right.
Okay.
We already have two families. Chris, do we know the percentage of two families in that area, R1B?
I don't have that analysis.
Okay.
We might be able to do that, but I don't have that.
Chris was going to say something else, so I think before that, I saw you kind of starting there, Chris, but go ahead.
Well, I want to work where you're right now conflating two separate issues. So the lot size, I understand some sort of like the connection that you're trying to make to it, but I just want to kind of be clear that first, there would be very few opportunities if we had done it right. So I'm kind of relying on others for that analysis, but if we had done it right, most of those parcels will be around 3,000 in the R2. Maybe you might have a lot that's 6,000. Technically, that might be able to be subdivided in that case. But even then, you also have your frontage requirements. So I think when you actually do, and then you have to do setbacks. So like the actual opportunities to sort of densify based upon the lot size is very small. I'm not saying it couldn't happen at all. It might, but that's not the intent. That's, in my mind, a separate question from whether you want to rezone certain parcels to a different district, and that's another then is another separate question on whether your R1B should be two-family.
So one of the other things I think we discussed, and you have to remind me, I suggested we shouldn't allow flag lots in the village, so like you wouldn't be able to subdivide and have a flag lot. I think that helps protect. Did we put that in, Ben? I don't remember.
We should have. I didn't notice that, but it should be in there.
Chris?
I don't remember.
That should be, we, I believe, accomplished that through the frontage requirement, because we say frontage is along the street.
I certainly wouldn't want flag lots being created to subdivide, to make, more buildings. I guess taking whatever, measurements as far as, I'm not a measurements person, which is not helpful, but I do think my intent is just to ensure that it's just, we have apartments where it makes sense to have apartments, and then multiple apartments. I know you guys think differently, but that's at least where I'm standing
character
from.
of the village is we have apartments throughout the entire residential area. So that's reflective of the character of the village that I think most people want to maintain.
Yeah, if the logic is to make zoning similar to what exists now, then by the same, to reduce lot size, the same logic would apply to allowing two-family dwellings. There's actually three-family dwellings up and down the streets, but two-family dwellings, I think, would be a compromise to allow some flexibility.
And it's also by special permit, isn't it? So,
But we discussed that special permit is kind of just a foregone conclusion a little bit. And so
Well,
what was
it-
the other issue that we talked about, special permit?
okay, so it's automatic, yes.
Yeah.
What was
It
it?
was with waivers.
Waivers, yeah, I just,
So, Mary, you indicated you were comfortable with two-family dwellings in an email. Is that still your position, or what do you think now?
No, where I live, there's, like I said, there's plenty of two-family dwellings, they just meld in. I don't have a problem. I mean, it would have to be case by case, I think, to see if it's gonna fit in the lot and.
So that would be the review through a special permit process.
Yeah, but you need to have a consistency, guys, and what's that consistency base? Because you cannot just deny it as the planning board, zoning board, willy-nilly without a justification or basis.
Well, the
That's
planning
thing.
board will have to define some sort of parameters as to.
Well, do you want to put that in? You're saying that's not in the zoning now? Is there
Would it
any
need to be-
specification?
so once you're
needed?
gonna, so say officially on whatever street, we'll use your street, if everybody all of a sudden starts wanting to put 2 and 3 family or whatever you guys, think is appropriate, at one point, like say everybody's saying the traffic's really challenging, the parking's really challenging, we don't know if this is a good idea, how are you gonna deny someone when everybody else got it by special permit? And what is your criteria here? And I don't, this is what my concern is, you're not gonna be able to say no if you put it in a mechanism of special
So you know
permit.
what would have been a really great analysis point to have is the percentage of single, 2, and 3 family within these districts. And then you could use those percentages for your special permitting process. So that when you hit 20% in a certain area, well, you can't do it anymore because that doesn't fit the
I
mix.
don't know if you can do that, because,
Well, Bernadette, to respond to what you're saying, just as it's now allowable to subdivide into 3,000 square foot lots, Chris doesn't think it's going to happen very often. I think we can also make the assumption that a lot of these single-family homes will not be subdivided, that people are very happy living as one family, and you're not going to see all those single-family homes turn into two-family.
I think the problem is
not
people
gonna
are
happen.
purchasing, people that aren't living there are purchasing these properties and then converting them into apartments, which inherently I don't necessarily have it's their right, it's their property. I'm just concerned about if we allow that, just want some sort of guide rails, to use your word. I'm a little concerned. It's hard to buy a house. I'm speaking from experience right now. It's hard, and I want a single family home, and properties are being snatched up, and partly because they know they can be apartments or something, and it's just, I don't know, it's
Well,
a little
I
concerning.
put in multiple comments in previous iterations where SP has to have very specific parameters for every use, every type of use. Otherwise, SP means a rubber stamp, which it's not supposed to mean.
Okay.
Otherwise, why bother having it?
But going back to, I don't even remember what meeting it was, it came up about parking waivers, which waivers?
there's a discussion it's on for tonight too, waivers versus special permits, and I had to explain there's completely different legal analysis in a waiver versus a special permit. In the code, there is a whole section about special permits, and it is specific.
Specific about each zone?
No, specific as to what the approval standards should be and what they have to meet. not for each zone. It's 11.6 right now, on page 118. There's special permit standards all set out through there. There's a procedure on how to do a special permit. There's, yeah, it's all in here.
what guide-
Conditions, there's conditions that they can put on there. So
What guidance does the planning board have for this zone as to what parameters they can either deny or approve a special?
it's in the code, for example.
Yeah,
I'm
but
looking
that's
at-
generic. I'm talking
If
about
I may,
specific.
if I may, it talks
Respect,
about,
folks, respect.
for example, modification of specific features, the hours of operation, loading and deliveries, placement of trash receptacles, lighting locations, placement of outdoor, I mean, there's all sorts of things. And I'm just looking at specific parts here. It goes, there's modifications to, I mean, I guess it's in there, Chris, unless I'm missing something. That's how it generally is. Each zone doesn't have, this is what you get for a special permit. It's, this is what special permits are, and you apply that. Just like each zone doesn't have, this is what you get for an area variance. There's an area variance portion that says, this is what you have to apply. What do you think,
Yeah, I
Chris?
don't usually see it by district. I often see it, there's sort of like a general criteria, and sometimes there's additional criteria for specific uses, which might be, what you're getting at there. One thing we've done with the single family issue is we've said two things. One, it has to be a conversion, not a tear down. And two, we limit it to saying like only houses that are, 3,000 square feet or greater are allowed to. So anything that's more moderately sized cannot be subdivided. So now you're really limiting the number of homes that could even potentially be converted to a two-family.
All right.
It's just an option. I'm just saying that's how we've handled it. I'm not recommending it for you. I'm just giving you
Can
options.
you do it for, I don't know if this makes sense, houses that are of a certain age and no older or no younger, or that doesn't work? That doesn't,
That goes on the
no
store.
point for that. Okay. All right, let's compromise and do that.
I'd like to see it in writing before I agree to anything.
All right, but we do have three people who are more comfortable with two-family, and I'd be particularly comfortable with some restrictions on it, which is a compromise.
So Chris, do you understand what it sounds like you're being asked to do? Because I'm a little confused.
I think I understand what I'm being asked to do. Yes, I'm going to give some language that would be the criteria upon which a single family could become a two-family in the 1B. That's what I'm being asked to do.
Potentially. You potentially also look into how, and I'll shoot you an email of the areas I was thinking about for R2 expansion rather, there's just a couple spots. Because I don't mean to be such a stickler, but my gut is saying no, I'm sorry, I don't mean to be so challenging on it, but I'm truly concerned about it. And
I can understand your reservation, and if you wanted to say new builds, in essence, what he's saying, you can't new build, you can't start from scratch with a two.
I'd like to see
two-family.
his thoughts and a couple
But if
different
you had an
directions.
existing one, or you wanted to convert an existing property, that would be feasible.
To the comment of the alternative is just rezone certain areas to R2, that is certainly easier because it doesn't require new language. It just means you're identifying appropriate parts on your map that should be changed from whether it's 1A or 1B to R2. I think that's what you're
That
suggesting.
opens a whole can of worms, because R2 has all kinds of uses that are not currently in R1B.
And again, I'm
we'd have to go
suggesting
through all
places
that.
downtown that is directly attached to the downtown area zone, which is not
All right, so
completely off.
not the R1B.
No, I said that
All right.
earlier.
All right, good, so we're not doing that.
No,
All right.
my whole point is to avoid putting so many multifamily homes or units in R1. So I was looking at very specific areas that are already dense and are already downtown. So,
Okay. I'm not opposed to that either. They're not mutually exclusive, it's fine. All right, so we move on, or what do you want to do? You ready? Move to the next one?
The next one says, make nursing home site, county site, and Angelica site R2, or create a separate residential zone for them.
So the R2 does, as I just mentioned, R2 allows for more commercial activity. Obviously, these sites are bigger and can afford to be more flexible in their uses. So for that reason, I was thinking it made sense not to, for example, have the nursing home site in R1B where the surrounding neighborhood, because it is so different and can be different than the surrounding neighborhood. R2 still has, certain parameters and standards. It just allows for a few more uses. So I thought that would be appropriate to apply to those areas.
I'm mostly okay with it, although I think Angelica's currently downtown, right? I don't want to
All right, we
reduce
can take that out.
So looking at our, not Angelica County site and nursing home site, my only thought is, because again, I do support the expansion of R2, but does it have to be contiguous of some sort? I don't know, if are we in danger of spot zoning? Like, what are we doing?
I think we
in
asked
this
that and
case?
answered.
Well, I had presented and provided you all a memo, a pretty detailed memo about spot zoning, and it was actually with respect to Maplewood Manor property, because that was the question, because it had reverted to R1 a number of years ago. As I indicated, as long as you are connected to your master plan, as long as it is not for a specific developer, and as long as it's for the general public, and it's consistent, then you can do it and it's not spot zoning. It turns into spot zoning when you're doing it for a specific developer, a specific project, and it's not in your comprehensive plan.
So that's kind of a chicken or egg.
Well, and
Situation.
the context was some zone that was different than anything we had, like some specific thing for that. Here, it's not, it could be spot zoning because we have multiple spots for the zoning. It's not one owner, it's not one
Well, that's
developer.
more of an overlay. I mean,
No,
right,
no,
Chris,
this
if you're
is-
gonna do multiple places, you're really overlaying it on top.
What, so this would be an R2 overlay over the nursing home?
I think the only answer here with the multiple properties is to embrace the fact they're gonna be mixed use. They're gonna be multifamily mixed use most likely. Some of them may embrace commercial better than others. And we go to eventually a PDD approach on it, but Bernadette and I were talking about this the other night. I think the biggest concern we have is protection of McMaster Street's character as much as we can get a hold of it, and maybe even improve it to a certain degree if the county site was ever redeveloped. So basically embrace a mixed use approach on Maplewood Manor, embrace a mixed use approach on the county site, but create a buffer, a residential buffer requirement on McMaster so that essentially anything that's built along McMaster and with a certain screening requirement and buffer requirement would be residential only, be it R1, whatever you want to call it, and no driveways that go into main parking lots coming off McMaster for either Maplewood Manor or for the county site. Whatever would develop, it would have to come off of West High Street for the county site, any kind of main driveway approach. Like it
So,
currently
yeah,
does.
so your mixed use is basically R2. That is R2. So let's make it R2.
But it's going to be, I'm telling you flat out, it's going to be a PDD in motion for both of those. It's not a simple R2 because it's probably going to be a denser type of approach or something that's going to go beyond your 20 number because these are just larger properties then.
Let's make it an R2 for now because we
Yeah.
don't have a PDD. And then you can do whatever your board wants to.
I'm just being transparent about, I think, where you're heading on this.
Well, see, if you're gonna utilize a PDD mechanism when we get to that point,
Right.
but what is the harm in putting R2 there?
I'm not saying there is, I'm just
Okay,
saying.
it's,
I'm being-
almost sounds like you were,
No,
so
I'm
I
being
just want
transparent.
clarification on that.
I'm gonna say flat out that one size fits all zoning does not work on the properties you're listing because they are all different in exposure level, in size and character generally, but they probably all end up with the same general concept of use eventually, but we need to see what each one is gonna be able to deliver.
So if you have an R2 and there is a mechanism in the current zoning that you can waive certain aspects of the zoning, that basically satisfies, you don't even need a PDD.
I wholeheartedly disagree with you on that because I think that you also want to make sure that what a PDD does provide you is, yes, the ability for the developer to present a plan, but also allows for public benefit requirement from the developer to make sure that you're getting the right traffic balance.
All right, we're not even
Stuff like
talking
that. I'm
about
just reminding him.
Yeah,
Okay.
I mean,
With all due respect.
sorry, I mean,
But you're not sorry, but you're continuing over me right now. With all due respect, I think you talk about transparency. We're trying to be transparent about the thoughts here about certain parcels that people are concerned about. And I don't think it's controversial to say they're different. And we're gonna have to do some things to make sure that we are gonna be able to use them effectively. Is R2 okay for the time being? Sure. Is that where they're gonna end up at the end of the day in terms of allowances on them? Probably not.
right, so, all right, so Chris, you've heard, we're okay with R2 for the time, for now. In terms of transparency, Frank, would have been quite possible for us to address the PDD issue in this year, and you unilaterally decided to push it off. So that's transparency too.
Correct, Ben, because we need to take a hard look at everything we're trying to do here and then figure out where it belongs, where it doesn't belong, where zoning's accommodated sites and not. So if we put a size limitation on, you probably have to officially exclude the fairgrounds should it ever redevelop for any purpose. So it's not just a simple process of just saying, oh, here's a PDD for the world. You need to be careful here and see first what we're doing with the main zoning and then say, okay, where do we need to flesh it out better now?
As you know, so you're being very strategic with the timing of how you're staging things. And as you know, and everyone knows, I think PDD is the wrong approach because, and many developers would prefer to just have strong, clear zoning rather than
And they'll have
this.
R2 if they choose to use it.
Exactly.
But it's probably not going to answer a lot of their needs ultimately because of some of the
And what about the
prerequisites.
community's needs? Let's make sure we don't lose.
Yeah,
sight of
that's
that.
first, second, third, fourth, and fifth.
I think I just addressed a community need
Okay.
with master, didn't I, as I made this discussion?
All right, we
I
can-
think
we
I
can
just
move on.
addressed the fair, no, we can't move on because
All
you
right.
just run your mouth like a thing my father would say, I'm not allowed to say
Well,
publicly.
you don't run your mouth.
Oh,
No.
guys,
Why don't you
stop.
watch your mouth,
No,
Frank?
both of you stop,
I don't
please.
think I
This
said
is really
anything
funny.
Run your
crude, I
mouth.
stopped myself from saying it.
Almost, you almost stopped.
All right, time out. It's not productive, you're right.
So anyway, you bring it up and here I
Bring up
am.
PDD.
No, you brought up the idea of this whole idea of master plan behind timing and everything else and this and that. And, it's community first. Yeah, no kidding, it's community first. Because I just said, in this process, we learned folks don't want the fairgrounds to be a
Yeah, I
PDD.
think that's
Great, okay, we've learned that. Big Master Street's got special concerns. We try to follow the comprehensive plan with the downtown buffer zone, whatever we call that thing. And that was in the comprehensive plan. Folks said no. And McMaster Street was most vocal on that. But at the same time, we have two very high-intensity properties probably to either side of McMaster Street that could be redeveloped or developed. And so the idea is, how do we make sure that's protected as a community? You haven't come up with those things. You complain a lot, but coming up with the solutions is probably where this is going to be won and lost at the end of the day, Ben. And that's why
You're grandstanding, you're running your mouth.
Let's.
Let's go back to what we need to deal with
I think
here.
generally we're all saying it can be R2 until we figure
Yes,
out other
exactly.
stuff.
Yes.
So let's move on.
Let's move on, thank you.
So Chris, you got that? Okay,
All right,
so
all right, go ahead.
you wanted me to do it. The next one is no multifamily buildings with greater than 12 units each in residential. I think that means R1, I don't know if it means, I don't know. if
In
that means
residential zones, yeah, so that would be also R2. The 12 admittedly is somewhat arbitrary in terms of that specific number, but the idea behind it is to limit the size of apartment buildings. As we saw with Tannery Row and Conifer's first attempt, developers like to build more than what the neighborhood wants. And this is a way to put a limit on any particular area in terms of, well, it gives the developers signal about, what is appropriate. It's not appropriate to have multiple huge buildings that totally transform a neighborhood and jam the streets. And so that was the motivation behind putting some kind of cap. I was happy to see that you Frank thought that some kind of cap would be appropriate. You said 21 units?
No, I said that a cap would be a starter, but then to utilize Chris's guidance that he provided to Bernadette, that you could go over the cap if you proved that you weren't using certain level of frontage. So it's a balancing test at the end of the day. And also, where were you in 1982?
Why?
Because you just made an assertion about Tannery Row that I don't know where that assertion came from, but you spoke of it like you were here.
No, I'm talking, not Tannery, sorry. I'm talking
You
about
said it.
Tannery, the conifer, what was the conifer?
Tannery Commons?
Thank you, Tannery Commons
Okay.
is what I meant, not
Thank
Tannery
you.
Row. Tannery Commons is what I referred to. So my concern with the whole frontage, Chris, you can explain what you were talking about, basically limiting the frontage of very large apartment buildings on the street so that they don't look as big from the street. My concern is it doesn't address the basic issue of having a huge amount of development in a space because, for example, nursing home or even Tannery Commons, a lot of their buildings were not on frontage. They were behind, and nursing home also will not have a lot of frontage, but you could have a huge amount of apartments back there with no frontage. So it doesn't necessarily address the concern of the amount and density of a development completely. So what do other people think about, and I should say, town of Ballston, they eliminated the ability to have apartment buildings because they were getting overrun by them. So you can't have any apartment buildings. But I'm not saying that, but I'm saying, some limit. So what do other people think?
I personally like Chris's approach because, listen, I hear what you're saying, but I started going the direction of a specific size, and Chris said both our directions didn't really make sense to him, and offered the alternative, which is ensuring that the frontage looks in what's the word? That fits.
I mean, he said it was doable, it's just a little clunky for some reason, but people do put size limits on.
Well,
No,
this would
I
be
don't
called
think that's what
pure
he
sane
said.
court when the guy who said it in the first place is sitting right there and then say what he said or intended. Why don't we let him?
Well, I guess I may have misunderstood what the kind of concern was. I thought that the concern was mostly sort of the visual impact of that these buildings would have on the village, which was why there was an earlier conversation, I believe, Ben, where you had said, well, what if we break up the building? So you weren't trying to necessarily limit the total number of units, you were just trying to make them smaller buildings. So I was going from that presumption that we're trying to sort of mitigate the visual impact. And so that was my solution, was based upon that. And I gave some examples to Bernadette where, the same building, depending on how it's oriented, can look really massive from the right of way and give that visual impact. You could rotate the building and it has a very different impact. That's the sort of the gist of what my suggestion was.
Right. Yeah, my purpose really was to decrease the density of the development.
But
so
you
that
did
you'd have
say multiple
Yeah,
buildings.
you could have multiple buildings, but you wouldn't have as much density.
That doesn't
It doesn't
decrease
decrease
density,
density.
so.
What?
It doesn't decrease density.
I think it would.
How? It's building with the same number of units. You're just
No.
putting parking in between or something.
I think you
Well,
would.
you
wouldn't
have to
the
have
same-
offsets, you have to have a certain amount of green space, so it would limit.
Yeah, you'd have
Yeah.
smaller buildings than one huge,
It would limit the number of
Okay, but
units.
no doubt. That said, it's still density. So what we're saying to you is, you're kind of talking about both sides of your mouth with this one, where you're saying, I want this building parameter. And because it's like, okay, so that you're talking about a view shed type of scenario where it looks
not
big.
just view shed.
But and now you're saying, but it's a density issue, and he's saying, but you're for splitting up the building into multiple buildings. That's still density. Maybe you lose 1 or 2 units somehow because of walls having to be put up differently and different
Yeah, you have
characteristics.
fewer units. So for example, Tannery Commons, the buildings wouldn't be as big. You wouldn't have as many units in that area.
It's not a good example, unfortunately, because that's also a piece of property that can't be subdivided. And so it becomes a much different ballgame over there.
Well, it would still be the same owner, it would just be multiple buildings.
Right, if any owner would even go there for that purpose, for that entire 6+ acres and the cost of it, that's the thing you gotta take into account with that, I've told you that multiple times, but
All right,
either way.
so do you wanna, so anyway, that's my opinion and what the other people think, because the majority is gonna just
I
say
think
what they
you were
want.
confused again, now that you're saying it's a density issue, and yet you're saying cut them into multiple buildings.
It will
Biggest
reduce the
density.
number of buildings, so that's what I believe.
Number of buildings?
Number of units, it'll reduce the number of units.
I think we're highlighting why it's kind of
Yeah.
not an ideal mechanism.
Do we want to limit the number of stories? It's the
That's already
size.
in the-
How do we
that's already
want
in
to
the code.
limit the density and the number of units on a given
I
piece
think
parcel?
maybe I came up with the best balancing trick at the end of the day. You put a number down, but you allow for basically a balancing act of what the visual impact would be and go from there.
But the impact is more than visual, so if you have huge
You
amount
reading a
of,
square? Read a square, I
of a-
think. He says
read what?
Read
If you-
F5.
If you read if you have a bunch of buildings, say a nursing home, there is no frontage per se, but you're gonna have huge traffic impacts and
Is that what
impacts
I
on
think
neighborhoods.
Frank's in between the two of us.
Yes.
He's somewhere in the middle of you and me, Ben, so
Yes.
you might like what he has to say.
No, limiting building width along the frontage and or requiring,
No? No.
oh G, I'm on G. F?
F5.
Okay. F5, who is this? This is Frank. Agree with Chris, but with a base cap of 21 units, Tannery Row, that's what Tannery Row has,
It's 21.
but ability to, and that's a good sized building, but ability to increase frontage meets certain prerequisites, or if the property isn't along public street frontage, right? So,
It's just a unit, that's the furniture, to increase units, but whatever.
all right, so anyway, so it doesn't address what my concern is with the exception that you're putting here. So nursing home, county office buildings, tannery commons, you have a huge amount of density. Bernadette, we just had a long conversation about how you wanted to limit density by not having two family apartments in R1. Are you willing to do anything, or what's the consistency with limiting apartment buildings in R1 and 2? And the
First
size
off,
there,
you're
would it be
talking kind of two
consistent
things.
to limit that?
So I assumed when you were talking about this part of it, that you were talking about R2, because we talked about a couple examples, and I assume you meant, what do you call it? Some of our larger properties that need to be redeveloped. I honestly think, so do you remember how many sort of spaces are in the nursing home? Like units, for lack of a better, no, they're a little smaller
Well,
than.
that's one
I think
room.
it was like 300.
Yeah, it was.
But think about how many are, I know, I understand that
That's
it's not gonna be
that's not
300, hold on, let me finish what I'm saying.
257 beds it was
So-
listed as.
So arguably less than that, because I think there's 2 in a room, but anyway, I'm not saying the specific number of rooms, but it's got a large number, you could potentially put a large number of units in that building. I think, I honestly still hold to Chris's recommendation. You did last time say it was not necessarily about, because when I wasn't sure, I was conflicted, because I was like, is it size specifically? And I think I was looking at existing buildings. So you got the apartment building that's right next to the factory. You have a couple larger buildings near me. What else would I look at? I send a whole thing to Chris of like my Google Maps measurements.
That would have been
But-
good to share
I shared what Chris sent.
with us
I did share
He
that.
did.
eventually. We got
I
something-
shared it. Did
we
I
got
not
something
share
back
it?
from Chris.
Did you?
Yeah, we
Oh
got
my
it
gosh.
eventually.
All right, well, I honestly think
But-
Chris's approach is appropriate.
But I'm
So,
just wondering, how does that square with your concern about making our two-family apartments in residential, and the density concerns you had that there, but you have no interest in restricting density levels when it comes to apartment buildings?
what are you talking about?
You
Don't
said
you
you
think
didn't
there should
want,
be, if you think housing is a concern and a need and we need apartments, don't you think it makes sense to have a little more density in areas like the nursing home or, the Tannery Commons, whatever we're calling it, that rather than the R1. I'm not saying I necessarily want.
There will be more dense, I agree, but do you think there should be any limits on it, just like you wanted to limit the two-family houses in R1B? You were very concerned
I
about the
provided
density.
some suggestions, but Chris was saying that's not the appropriate way to handle it. Instead of being so prescriptive, we're offering some
You
guideline
did
on the
not
frontage.
say it was inappropriate, you did not.
So I'm gonna ask you two things right now. Are you okay with my general?
It seems like a compromise between the two of us.
It's really not,
Mary,
because it's huge.
okay, Mary,
huge
are
loophole.
you, Ben? Mary, are you okay with my general kind of approach of, yeah, we'll put a number on it, but if it's not gonna create a major visual problem, along street side, et cetera, you having the ability to increase, let the planning board, zoning board, determine from there on that one?
Yeah, I think a lot of variables are gonna determine what the cap should be on it. And like I said, I think they're best to determine what the cap of units should be.
Who's best to determine?
Can Chris
Well, I think.
offer those kind of recommendations?
No, I was gonna go to him next.
Oh,
so-
sorry.
Mary?
I'm so
No,
sorry.
Can you
no,
finish?
I think that the planning board is better equipped to determine how many
Right,
units should be in a certain lot size.
but they can't cap it if it's not in zoning.
Well, I'm saying cap it at 21, but then give allowance based on factors.
So there's no cap for the major properties we're talking about, there is no cap effectively.
No, there's a cap effectively, because there's gonna be height restrictions, et cetera, that play into the role too, and the size of a lot, and parking requirements and everything else. Some of these things automatically start scaling back what their abilities are on, and they've gotta meet certain requirements, and they're not gonna get waivers for parking if it's not, let's say, one per unit at minimum for some smaller units type of thing. You were gonna ask Chris, you wanted Chris's thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, if this is a compromise, I would suggest Chris write up those kind of.
Chris, does my cell make sense to you, kind of, sorta?
So let me just reword it to see if I understand it. The working thought is there's a cap, a starting cap of 21 units. There's also this criteria of the frontage, as I explained to Bernadette earlier, or suggested to her. But then there is a potential for a waiver to increase the units.
Yes, based on criteria.
So what are your criteria? We don't have any criteria.
Well, that's what I'm asking, maybe Chris. can-
Yeah, I think you're getting the gist of where I'm going with the idea of street side versus non-street side, ability to screen, things like that for visual impact stuff. We can, you and I talk, maybe be a little bit more verbose on where that should probably go, and then let the board see it and see if they have thoughts to change any of it
I
too.
would include in the parameters of traffic impact
Yeah,
and
that's-
parking
Yeah,
impact.
Yeah,
that's
that makes
good.
sense.
I agree with
And
you.
why don't you include the whole board? We're at the time where you might as well include the whole board with these conversations. This conversation could have happened a month ago.
Well, I think right now I'm trying to say, he and I probably should talk about what my intent was, because I have a small box to write things in, but then giving it out to the board when written.
We all have intents, so we can all share our intents.
Nonetheless,
together.
Yeah, everybody can talk, everyone can talk.
I'm going to recommend, we're at the hour 5-minute mark of this, we'll allow to go to 9:15 by taking a 10-minute stretch break here, because I think we need one right now,
I
if
just
that's
have
okay.
one more
Sure, go
comment.
ahead.
21 units seems oddly specific number.
It is, because it's Tannery Row, and I think we've been using it
Well,
as
it's a pre-existing, we don't need to use it.
No, we don't.
So
Well, see-
can we use 20? Does that make sense?
I was trying to make one less non-conforming.
There's
It
plenty
doesn't
of that.
matter.
yeah.
Just the thought there.
Just
Let's
seems
look at it,
oddly
we'll figure it
specific.
out, we'll look at it and figure it out at that point, okay? Let's take a 10-minute stretch break. Chris, you're okay to go 9:15, is that okay with you ultimately? Okay, so we're, can I get a motion to take a 10-minute adjournment?
Sure.
I'll make the motion.
Trustee
I'll
Raymond,
second.
trustee Fandines, all in favor?
Aye.
We'll see you back in 10 minutes, folks, here at 8:22.
I know, I didn't think we needed a motion.
Okay, we have a 1-minute warning here before we restart. I can't even talk. I roughing all day yesterday. Just hate it. Where?
Yeah, we didn't do a dance or anything. No? Yeah. What? Nobody went, so they do. What? Running the dance.
All right,
I'm not sure.
let's go.
Ben, I'm gonna just say before I go, listen, the word insufferable is becoming reality here. Please,
Just stop. Everybody
relax.
stop.
Relax. I am relaxed. I've been pretty much low tone all night tonight. We're back in, 8:22. Carla, if you'd like to continue, we will continue down this.
Sure. We are on, for buildings with 4 or more units, minimum side setback of 15 to 20 feet, currently 10.
All right, so nobody like that, so let's just skip it.
Okay.
So you mean there's consensus among the other board
So
members?
should I
Is
put
what
in
you're
the notes
saying?
section, don't change?
Yeah, don't change.
Great job.
Chris, I have a notes section, but for some reason I can't access it online because there's not good Wi-Fi, so I'll just send it to you later.
Sounds good.
All right, so the next one,
Institutional.
no institutional uses in residential zones, only in downtown, gateway, and industrial zones.
So, and what I wrote is if we have, and this is a big conversation in our last meeting, if we have non-residential uses in residential zones, I think we really need standards specific to those and not the same standards that you use for a house. And again, harking back to Bernadette, you're very sensitive to the nature of the neighborhood and, not wanting to even split a house into 2 family. This is a significant change to the neighborhood potentially, depending on what we allow. If we allow non-residential uses, commercial office space, which you have indicated you're comfortable with, and I could be comfortable with, and as we've said, just like with 2-family homes, there's a lot of non-residential uses in the residential zones. But I think it would be irresponsible to expand those uses without standards specific to those non-residential uses when it comes to parking, lighting, hours of operation, design of the buildings to look like homes, loading, all kinds of things that haven't been addressed specifically. So there's 2 things here, really. What uses, which was a huge thing we left undone last time, and then if certain uses, then what are the standards?
As far as what I was just referring to, I'm just thinking about historical uses currently there's a dental practice in R1. I don't know that I want to do a hospital, but there used to be one on Front Street and
Yep.
Science, or is that Front and Court I wrote down. Veterinarian office that was on Hyde Boulevard. So I'm more thinking of like the smaller scale stuff like the dental and the veterinary practice that used to exist on Hyde Boulevard. I think, of course, you're going to have standards of some sort. Certainly would want it to look like it belongs in a residential zone.
So we don't have that now, so I guess, at least you and I guess, are at least are asking Chris to create some standards for non-residential uses in residential zones, is that true?
Chris, is there standard sort of, like when municipalities go this direction, are there like best practices sort of standards ready to go, or do you have thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I think I I support the idea that if you're going to allow them, then you want them to look and act like a single family home. I think that makes sense. I think that's actually different from what I was hearing at previous meetings where it sounded like there should be completely different dimensional standards for institutional uses. So those are at odds. If you wanted to sort of look and feel like a single family home, I can put in some standards to that effect. I think that makes sense. I don't know what lighting standards are in off the top of my head, but I think we have some of those that we can put in to make sure that those don't impact negatively. Although some communities have lighting standards in other parts outside of the zoning code, so I'd have to check what Ballston Spa has to see if I don't want to conflict with it.
I think actually some of the size things you were talking about, whatnot, like the sign sizes, I think we were talking about maybe having a little bit more grace on that for a business than a normal house would be allowed, and not obscene, but just enough that you to respect the fact they might need something a little bit bigger than this.
The dental practice is probably already not, their sign is not.
Non-conforming.
Non-conforming.
Yeah. I just want to ask Mary too, to just clarify something here. I think you and I both probably meant special use permit instead of variance, because variance would be a different realm. So, where you see variance on that one, Chris, we meant special use permit on that. So.
Okay.
Yeah, the other thing that caught my eye, for example, I think in parking, it says 1 space for every 200 square feet for commercial or something like that. And so if you had that in a residence, you had a 2,000 square foot house, you'd have require 10 parking spaces, and that would not be conducive to a residential area, for example.
Well, you could make an exception.
Well, yeah, that's an example,
Or
loading and idling trucks, all those things really can impact a home that's next to a
Well,
business.
our code, you're not allowed to idle any vehicle in our, what was that, the streets code?
Yeah.
So,
Okay, good, I'm glad to hear that.
no, I insisted because I can't stand seeing all the cars idling for no reason.
Yeah, so all the aspects of a business, the lighting, the signage, the parking, the loading, obviously noise, I think we have stuff on noise and sound and smell. You'd want to just take a lens, a residential lens too, and make sure they apply there.
So parking, I just want to be clear, because parking is usually tied to the use, not to, the district. I would presume that you want more parking for if you allow like a dentist or something, or a doctor's office, wouldn't you want more parking for that?
You would have 10 spaces in a 2,000 square foot building scenario, because the driveway may not permit that type of situation, or at least an attractive driveway. So you want to keep a character of sorts in there while embracing a little bit of what we're saying about the flexibility. So maybe you up the standards for commercial R1 type of situation where it's 1 per 400 square feet or 300 square feet instead of 200. That's where he's going with it.
So,
You
yeah, so
could go
people-
with location too. You could put the
Yeah.
parking in the rear so it's not visually impactful.
That could be too,
Yeah.
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 You don't want to be surrounded by parking lots is.
Well, I would imagine that's where I can't think of the word.
Special use permit.
No, like shielding.
Okay.
Shielding's not the right word.
Buffering.
Buffering, thank
Yeah.
you, like arborvitae's or something, have some buffering requirements.
All right, good. I'm glad we have basic consensus on that. We did go back and forth a little on different uses, we all agreed to take out hospitals and I think healthcare facilities just to make it clean last meeting.
What do we mean by healthcare facilities? That's what I wasn't, there was,
I think we
Funny.
differentiated that.
Funny you should mention that, because Chris and I spoke about this earlier it must be Monday, it must have been last week. It's been a long week already. And there's language that I sent to him that talks about hospitals, healthcare facilities, and I think that what was the third one?
Well, then there was medical office.
Medical
That was
office.
Part of
Richard?
office, but clarified that medical, that was part of it. I think.
Right, professional offices included medical office. So there was hospital, then a healthcare facility, and then professional offices, and that included medical offices.
so it's no longer a part of
Correct.
the healthcare facility.
So it's just like
Okay.
a
Yep, I think it's
eye
better.
doctor's office or something.
That's better, I think.
And so it would just be in the definitions that you would,
So we would include, medical offices, but not healthcare facilities and hospitals?
Well, if you're including
Residential.
professional offices, that would include a medical office.
Right, but not other, what are other healthcare facilities?
So
That's a different definition.
she's saying
should we-
so it
what
won't
does
be
that
in
consider?
there. So,
Other health facilities won't, yeah, that's what I'm saying,
If that's what you
hospitals,
decide, yeah.
hospitals and other healthcare facilities would not be in, but medical offices would.
yeah,
that
it's
what
like
we're
a
saying?
difference between going to see a doctor who happens to have an office versus like, you know, the bone and joint center. Ballston Spa, you know, like, so I think that's what, I think that helps create that.
But
Because my
that's-
intent is
yeah.
to allow doctor's offices or just, you know,
But that's
small
what we're saying.
practices.
I just want to make sure, because I think I agree. Doctor's offices, but not hospitals and healthcare facilities.
Yes, I think
Right.
we're on the same page.
All right. Yes.
I just want to clarify one thing then on this, sorry to make it confusing, but if medical offices are part of professional offices, then that means you'll also be allowing like an attorney office or something like that. So I just want to make sure you're okay with that.
Yeah, that's another use. That's under professional and personal service uses.
Well, that's what we're saying, when you define professional offices or professional and personal service uses, medical office is gonna be inserted into the
Right.
definition.
Right, that's fine.
Okay.
And that is currently allowed in R2, but not the other residential zone, the professional and personal.
By special permit.
Right. Did people want to talk about other uses, or, I got the use table open, or we just want to leave the uses the way they are now, other than what we just talked
They're
about?
pretty standard. I can't imagine what else you would want or what other like neighbors would want. I think you stick to low impact sort of businesses, you know?
All right, and then we'll do some special standards for particularly R2, where most of these uses are gonna happen, although there's still institutional uses that need their own standards in residential for like houses of worship, funeral home, nursing home. Those are the institutional uses in schools. So, okay, thank you.
Okay, your next one is make height standard for non-residential dwelling in residential zone equal to residential dwelling standard of 36 feet pertaining to accessory buildings, garages, or i.e. garages.
Yeah. This one actually got a lot of comment from the public, and it's particularly concerned, I think, in R2, where you can have non-residential uses, and you can build a building that's bigger than the residence. So people were thinking that really accessory buildings should not be bigger than the main residential dwelling, which makes sense to me. We're just talking about 4 feet, but that makes sense to not have accessory buildings bigger and higher. I don't know.
We'll see, I would try with a two-story parking garage.
Two-story parking garage,
This isn't residential zone.
30 feet probably, 15 and
Yeah,
4.
15, I always thought it was 20 per floor for some reason.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nowadays,
Depends on what you
they
do.
squeeze them.
Yeah, like the airport one has that height thing that might,
Yeah.
I might make the
I mean-
damn thing.
Yeah, you're not driving a truck or anything.
Yeah, I mean,
No,
part,
this has to be-
part of this is the concern that accessory units are not subject to site plan review. Is that true, Chris?
Well,
There's
that's
no,
another question, isn't it, that comes up later on this, so.
yeah, but it sort of goes together in that if you're gonna have these huge buildings without even site plan review, that you need some standards behind them. So that there's some standards.
I know, I owned a property where the barn was taller than the house.
Previous non-conforming.
Right,
Was
but,
there a need for that though? Because like for the hay and
Well, it was a pre-existing house, but if somebody wanted to either convert it into a workshop or something like that, there may be a need for a second story. And I guess just categorically saying it can't be higher, I mean, maybe there should be a height limit, I agree.
Well, it is 40 feet, but why would it be higher than the house, I guess is,
well, like,
People were
one example that you could, for apartment, larger apartment complex type scenario, if you did still the 20s per building and all that, you may want a 2-story parking garage. And so that thing may be a little bit taller than what you anticipate the buildings themselves to be, depending on how they're built. I think Sean and I are actually speaking the same language here, which is it may not happen much, but there may be certain cases where you really have a good reason for it, or some desirable reason for the developer of the property that they can screen it or do something to just take the effect.
I mean, if you want to put like a special permit process.
I think yes, I would be okay with that aspect of it, yes.
Yeah, you need some kind of site plan review.
Yeah, but I think you're saying the complete prohibition probably is going to be more problem than it's worth, so let's give them a pathway at least.
So we're saying 36, but potentially more with a
Well, right now it's
special
40.
permit.
It says the standard is 40 for accessory and 36 for primary residence.
So should we just say instead of 36, just not higher than main?
No,
Well, they're saying they
well,
want,
There's plenty of existing homes here that are 40 feet at the peak.
yeah. So how would you word that, Chris, to kind of embrace what we're going for here, at least what Sean and I were talking about, and I think we can get consensus on that.
So I got, sorry, a little lost in terms of where we were going. So if you want to just explain it, then I can provide language to match it, and I can work with Carla, but I couldn't quite follow.
I think what they're trying to do is say that an accessory building should be the same height, should be no higher than the principal building. But if it needs to be, some sort of a variance has to apply. I mean, to me, that's an area variance.
An
That's all
area
it is.
variance seems like it wouldn't be that high. I guess my scenario in that would be, what if you had a ranch house, for example? So it's a very low house, but you had a detached garage that could be, why do you have to limit it to the size of the principal structure?
Why don't we solve this problem and make the residential height 40 feet? And it would be the same.
Or R2 or R1?
Well, it said
Well,
the
right
limit
now-
was 36.
right now, R1B, A, B, and 2, the residential dwellings, 2.5 stories and 36 feet high, and then the non-residential uses are 3 stories and 40 feet. And so in those residential areas, I think people are concerned that their neighborhoods get overrun with extra houses.
Downtown's 50?
Extra structures. What?
Downtown's 50 with possibility for 60 and special permit. So it is. I'm trying to
Yeah,
put it
it's
together.
there now.
So just to be clear, that's from your existing code, and that wasn't necessarily referring to accessory structures. That was referring to if you had like a school or something like that. That's what that 40 feet would be.
Yeah. No, you're right. The wording is, or the terminology is non-residential uses. So that could be a building that's not accessory. It's just a whole new building, but it's just not used for it. So it becomes more of an issue, you're right, when we're allowing more uses in residential.
Are you as confused as me right now?
So is this a definition issue? Is that,
No, I don't think so. I think
and
it's a characterization.
it's getting
issue.
confused, an accessory building with a
Right,
non-residential.
I used the word
use.
accessory, but I should have said just non-residential use building.
Well, but
Well,
then
so you can only have one principal
use.
use
Oh, is that
building
true?
on a property, and every other building is a accessory.
Accessory.
Okay, so when you have this chart on page 24, and for residential lot standards, it says residential dwelling, 2.5, 36, and it says non-residential uses 3/40. So you can only have one of those, you can't have both on a lot, is that
Well, if
true?
you're a residential lot, then your use is residential. Like,
Well, but
you
if you-
can't have both a residential use and a business use as two principal uses on a lot.
In 2 different buildings?
Correct me if I'm wrong, but that's how it's always been. You have one principal use. You're talking about uses or structures? Those are different things.
I'm talking about dwellings that are either residential or non-residential.
See, I thought this was about garages.
I thought it was
and-
about size, yeah, I
Yeah.
thought it was about garage.
Well, It could be anything. I mean, that's, I guess, what I'm projecting
guess-
is.
Yeah, but that
You don't need
changes
to
us.
then
Yeah.
you don't need to say residential or
Once a
non-residential.
lot
That's
is
what's in the chart.
residential with the primary thing, it's residential. You
Correct.
can't put a non-residential use in.
Correct.
You can't add a
Or
building.
you wouldn't get the specifications for non-residential
That's
on
right.
that, yeah.
Putting a garage or something on it is an accessory structure on a residential.
Right, and that's
Wow.
what I think we're thinking this was
So,
all
I thought
about.
it was just bulk
So-
issue.
So
Yeah.
so we have a chart here, and it says R1A, R1B, R2, all residential, and it says non-residential uses. This is page 24.
Well, are you,
That is referring to the institutional uses or other non-residential uses, and it comes from your existing zoning code. I would be very happy just to remove that line and just make it clear. It's just limit it to 36 feet or just make it 40 feet. I think that would make things much easier.
All right, so, well, we're not talking about two different buildings, we're talking one building, and if it's non-residential, you can do three stories or 40 in a residential area.
So like a church, for example, that's what that would refer to. Like a church could be 40 feet, but they're saying, and a home is 36 feet. It's
All right,
very
but-
little difference. I think you're making.
Only one building on each piece, though.
So you could resolve the confusion just by having the residential dwelling be 40 feet too. Because it's only gonna be 2.5 stories, because it's more than likely gonna be a peaked roof versus, a flat roof, like an institutional
Right.
building would typically have.
I think that would be the simplest way.
All right, I don't think it's a huge issue either way, but.
Yeah, I really did think we were talking about garage sizes, so.
So Chris, you're
it
good?
does say, it actually says pertaining to accessory buildings, i.e. garages, doesn't it?
Where, not under that chart.
No, on your.
No, on your chart it does.
Yeah, on yours.
Yeah.
So
and with all the
we're not
things
losing
too.
our minds, okay?
Yeah, no, I used the word accessory, but I'm referring to that chart.
He's missing what we're saying, but it doesn't matter, keep going.
You exampled garages, that's
Right.
what you were meaning.
Right,
So that's
right,
why
yeah,
we were,
yeah.
So Chris, you're good? Or no?
I'm good.
I'm still confused, but if you're good, you're good.
I don't think we're changing anything
Right.
realistically.
I think we are changing, I think we're deleting that line about non-residential uses and accessory uses, to be clear. An accessory use to a residential use has the same height restriction as the principal use.
Right.
Right.
Yes, fine.
Right.
Next. 9.
Building height downtown, it goes to 20 something, just something.
Yeah, we aren't.
We'll skip.
Building height downtown, maximum 50 feet, no special permit to increase to 60 feet.
Yeah, I think, so personally, I think 50 is enough. So, but everyone, I don't know if I think I'm in the minority on that. So if people just say what they think, we'll move on.
Yeah, because
sorry.
I think we cited, like you said, that was fine with special permit, and others were,
I'm fine with
Yeah.
what you and Sean and Mary to suggest.
And I mean, yeah.
I thought it was
and
fine
the-
as written, but.
so,
I mean, I'd also prefer a 3-story maximum.
and
Yeah.
Sean even says 4 stories by special permit, so I mean, I think we're pretty much.
All right, so we're doing 3
consensus
stories with 4 stories by special permit?
Well, I think we're talking also the feet is what you were looking at mainly in this one, so I think they're interrelated, but just to be clear.
So we can also specify stories, though. I think 4 stories is plenty. Can we specify maximum 4 stories?
You're saying by special permit, you don't say anything about anything
Right,
more than
right.
4 stories, so it sounds like you seem all in
What?
agreement, I'm fine with it.
All right, so
Well, what
we're
I'm
gonna
saying
maximize
is
4
stories and not usually typically using feet. You could have a 4-story building that's 60 feet high.
All right, but we max out at 4 stories. 3 stories or 4 stories with special permit, is that what we're saying?
What did the comp plan say?
I think do you remember those? I think it said 3 stories with
Liz
4
was on-
stories max.
Liz was on the comp plan committee, probably Maryland would be the better one to ask.
Yeah. What did you remember?
She's got-
3 stories,
4 stories?
4 stories max?
That's my recollection.
I thought she did away with the specific story number based on, yeah, there was certain areas that maybe that you felt, or let's look at that. Well, we're gonna reserve
We'll
that to
refer
look back
back to
at,
that.
the comp plan,
All
to
right.
make sure we're
And we'll go
consistent
with what the
that.
comp plan says?
The current code has both,
What?
the current code has both the fee plus the stories.
Right.
Well,
Good comp plan.
we're not asking about that right now, we're asking about the comp plan.
All right, so we'll go with what the comp plan says.
We'll dig that out, Chris, we'll see where we were on
No
that.
change for now, okay.
Sidewalks must provide ADA compliant sidewalks along adjacent streets as part of site plan.
Yeah, so the only adjustment here is we already have, and that's inside, and what I clarified in the box is inside, in neighborhoods where there already are sidewalks. So that's what it would be. And the only tweak here is we already have new sidewalks for these developments for site plans. But also, if they're going for a site plan and there is a sidewalk, they'd be required to bring that sidewalk up to compliance with ADA standards, that's all. So they just have to repair their sidewalk if they have one, but it's in disrepair if they're doing the site plan.
What level of, okay, it requires a site plan but not a permit?
I said site plan, so what do you think?
I think that you're trying to accomplish something in this code that's probably gonna be better suited for the sidewalk code ultimately, to be explicit in it. I have a problem parsing between two different sections of the code because we're gonna end up tripping, or let's say somebody reading it, it's gonna look to sidewalks about sidewalks, and, site plan, probably they're not gonna be looking at unless you just say, you reference two sidewalks inside site plan, or permit or something along those lines to say that you must be in compliance with the sidewalk code at section blank. I think you'd be careful there because you're going to create differentiations.
This is just tweaking a sentence that's already in this zoning draft.
Which is what though?
Which says you have to install a sidewalk if you're doing, as part of the site plan approval.
I would say that probably the wording should be changed to, please review sidewalk requirements in conjunction with any permitting and sidewalk or site plan.
Like in compliance with village sidewalk law.
Yeah,
So you don't want any reference to sidewalks in the zoning code?
Oh, are you saying this because if there's changes to sidewalk code, it's contained there and you don't have to worry about
Correct.
redoing the whole entirety of the zoning?
or just, you might accidentally put inconsistencies between the two unintentionally in this whole thing. And somebody later on in 20 years when they're trying to take care of sidewalk code changes something that now creates a bigger problem between the two. So you gotta be careful with that.
we
Carla will
are,
clearly not be our attorney then because, she's gonna be
as
virtually
far
retired.
as new buildings,
Right.
I think we already have a requirement through the planning board to install sidewalk.
I think so, but again, that should be in contemplation of the existing sidewalk code, ADA compliance, all that
The
stuff.
only wrinkle I see there is that we've had discussions, and I know I sent a draft that nobody's given me any feedback on, so, but
Carla asks me all the time what the next code is to be, and my answer is universally been,
Sidewalks.
thank you. So, yeah.
so,
Sidewalks.
And sidewalks.
but the rub is if there's not a pre-existing sidewalk and we can't definitively determine if it is village right of way, we therefore, currently the way things are, cannot compel somebody to put a sidewalk in.
Correct.
So,
I don't know how you ever would change that realistically.
well, if you say, hey, you're building a new property, you gotta put a sidewalk in.
I get where you're going with that. If you're saying that you want to put a prescription for, okay, the most you could ever do in here is cover that, I get that. But don't put specifications, ADA compliance, stuff like that in here, that belongs in the sidewalk portion of the code. Basically, you're right up to a point where you state what your requirement is going to be for a site plan or permit and say, if you trigger it, now go to this section of the code where everything about sidewalks is contained.
It almost says that already. It says, if a sidewalk does not exist along the frontage of the property of any adjacent right-of-way at time of application, the applicant must construct a sidewalk along said frontage. Construction of sidewalks must abide by all local, state, and federal laws.
We probably
We can just put in
waiver.
there,
You could
So
put
The-
existing sidewalk too, and that
Right.
way he has to repair.
Exactly, that's the part that's missing. They might have an existing sidewalk, so it's terrible. And here they are going for a new building, they should have to update their sidewalk too. So. yeah,
How
just-
about replace unless after consultation with the DPW supervisor, it's deemed to be sufficient sidewalk?
Well, ADA compliance is how the supervisor is gonna
So
do it.
DPW supervisor, I get that, but it's still, that's all includes sidewalk code. The other thing that I think doesn't accomplish is somebody built a new house in Colonial Hills, you're not gonna one-off sidewalk them, but that didn't embrace the idea of getting a waiver in that type of situation either.
That's a good point, because I don't
Chesterwood
think you
or-
necessarily want to force somebody in Colonial Hills
Yeah.
to.
No, no, this
Chesterwood
is,
Court even, yeah.
this is specifically for places that have sidewalks.
So we just have to.
As it said.
Yeah, we have-
No,
Just specify.
it doesn't say that,
What's that?
to Ben's point.
Oh, then it should.
So, yeah, Chris, we gotta take a better look at that sidewalk requirement then, because there are certain waivers we'll probably give for, until an entire neighborhood decides to change a tack on that. Because there are neighborhoods that just don't want sidewalks for the idea of not necessarily inviting more pedestrian traffic
I
and
just-
stuff like that.
I think the physical constraints of the
That
right of
too.
way make it not
Yeah.
very feasible.
Yeah, too. There's a variety of reasons I think
Yeah.
people resist them.
Especially over in Chesterwood.
But then
That's fine. I think what the language that was in there was from earlier feedback, and that's how it got, I'm happy to change it however you want, so that's fine.
but the actual requirements for how to build the sidewalk, et cetera, need to just basically cross-reference the sidewalk sections of our code that exist, chapter.
So it's only requiring sidewalks where there are sidewalks, roughly.
Yeah, we gotta
On
figure out.
streets where sidewalks exist.
Right. And then you want, and they have to repair and or replace.
Provide the ability to get a waiver generally from a planning board on this, because we're not gonna be able to word this, I don't think, sufficiently to, but we could put the express intent is to have a sidewalk network where sidewalks generally exist already.
Yeah.
Your next one, change from waiver to special permit, the following, except for where there are measurable variations of 10% or less per administrative adjustment section 11.3. And you
So-
have two different ones underneath that, so Ben.
Yeah, and just to, I think, maybe put this in a summary form. I'm concerned, I think Sean's concerned with the ability of the planning board to waive entire sections, including Article 5 and parts of Article 7. And if they're given the ability to waive anything, that there should be some parameters around that. And one of them could be that at least there's a public hearing or something that puts some structure and some ability for the public to weigh in whenever the planning board has the authority
But,
to
yeah,
discussion of waiver.
But they already get to weigh in, yeah, they do.
No, well, they should have a hearing specific on the waiver only. Because that is zoning code that when we do a hearing, and they say, okay, we're fine with it, they expect that code to be followed. And if the planning board is gonna say, oh, we're just gonna rip that section of code out because it doesn't help
That's not how it
the,
works.
well, then what does a waiver mean then?
Well, I actually defined it there for you.
Okay.
And explained the difference between a waiver and a special permit, because a special permit goes to the use. A waiver is like minor things that, like.
You missed
Minor
parking, back
well,
up spaces.
parking.
All
yeah.
of
Things like
Article
that. Let me
5
finish,
can
please.
be waived.
Minor
And-
to whom?
Oh, okay.
Let her finish.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Planning boards regularly have the right and discretion to waive minor things. Minimal requirements, they cannot waive uses, that's a use permit or a special permit. But a waiver is like the lighting or the buffering or use an arborvitae instead of a pear tree for you.
Yeah,
We
thank
don't
you, I
like
Of course,
appreciate
They
it.
could be significant though.
But it could, it
I mean, it says all of Article 5 use standards could be waived.
But where does it say all of Article 5 use standards? You can't waive a use.
The standards of use.
But where does it say, if it does, please let me know, because I don't see
Right.
where it says that. Because waivers, if you look at Village Law Section 7725A5, it specifically talks about waivers.
There is somewhere where it says all of, I don't know, Chris, do you know where? It's
I
gonna
can't
take a minute.
imagine it
But
says
it
that.
says something like Article 5, the items in Article 5 can be waived.
Yeah, it's not referring to the uses in Article, so Article 5 is the uses. It says when a use is permitted, the standards that are associated, which is what the types of things Carla was just noting, can be waived by the planning board.
Yeah, that's what I said, all the use standards
No.
are subject to
Not,
waiver.
you know, you're merging two things right there,
Well-
use and
Right,
standards.
the standards. The
So,
standards.
yeah,
What are the standards? Like, name one of the standards. They're things like I just discussed.
I gotta get to the,
And while you're looking, Ben, to your point, to having a hearing on a waiver, one of the reasons for having a waiver is because it is so minimal that there's no need to have discussion on it, and it moves the project along. But if you're asking for a hearing, then you have to go into the 10-day hearing requirement, and it pushes projects along, too far into the future.
But also,
Which is already part of the process, though.
but I was just gonna say, they're supposed to define upfront the waivers being sought before the public hearing for that is open. So you are aware, that's what I was trying to say earlier, you are made aware of the waivers in that process. They can't just spring them at that point unless later on they determine it, but usually they'll leave public hearings open long enough so that if that did happen where something became, oh, you'll need a waiver for that if you didn't catch it already, that will still have public comment available for that point. That's just the way they do this.
And I just want to comment also, if you do look at Article 5, I know you're concerned with, well, you're kind of giving them carte blanche to waive everything. That's not the case, because it specifically limits how they can make their waiver determination. There's 10 different requirements they have to meet for it to be a waiver. And it has to find also that the action is warranted by reason of the unique physical conditions of the property or the particular character of surrounding properties. And then it identifies in D, 10 different ways, like size and intensity, traffic loads, noise, light, smoke. That's what they're talking about there. So
Right.
it's not the use, it's basically those 9 standards right there. So the planning board doesn't have carte blanche, it's limited to what is in the code.
correct, but there could be, any one of those 10 could be the reason for the waiver, and the wording that I'm looking at is 5.1C. When a use listed in this Article 5 as a permitted use, a waiver from the planning board is required to waive any of the requirements imposed by this article.
Correct.
Yeah.
Right, so it can waive any of the requirements. It has to meet one of these, such as, in the board's opinion, the extent, nature, and arrangement of something is not quite easy to do. And then the use standards down below the uses, there are significant standards there, such as the ground floor, highway business, the ground floor area of any building along the frontage must contain commercial uses. That can be waived. That's a big thing. There's a lot of big potential items here that could be big, not just little. Anyway.
Things of that nature I consider significant. That's not minor.
No outdoor storage of materials, merchandise, refuse and trash must be stored outdoors at all times only if placed in closed containers.
It does, though, again, it's your code. I'm just letting you know that the code right now, while it says they have the discretion and the authority to apply a waiver, they have to meet these requirements in order to get to giving, they can't just say, you know what, I'm gonna waive
But just
this.
one of them.
Let me finish, please. Sorry, it's just hard because we don't have Terry here either, so it's hard when everyone's talking over each other. They have to go by what's in there. I guess, and Chris, I will defer to you, perhaps, but I don't see what else we would put in here to meet what trustee Baskin's concern is.
Well,
Chris,
that's
do
what
you
the
have a
public
thought?
hearing idea
Well, the
was.
public hearing is, so the public hearing is a public hearing, okay? They have a public hearing for your site plan. So you're already gonna have a public hearing, you have to let them know what waivers you're gonna ask for in your application. That way the public can speak to it at that public hearing already. What's the purpose of a second public hearing?
Do we think it's reasonable to waive, that they can waive all the standards in Article 5?
That is completely up to you. I'm just letting you know that the way it's written right now, they have to meet certain criteria to waive something. It is not.
Right,
your
no, I hear it,
concern-
but it could be one little, it doesn't have to be all 10. It could be one thing that doesn't.
Shall evaluate the following factors when applying their
Right.
respective standards. Yes,
And-
they do. They
and
absolutely.
They can, but only, go ahead.
I'm sorry, it's difficult when you're trying to speak. The planning board shall evaluate the following factors. They have to.
Right, I understand that.
No, but you said that they don't. So I'm just
No,
letting you know
what
the
I'm
way.
saying is they, all
Please
right,
stop.
then I was talking, wasn't I? So what I was saying is that they shall evaluate all, but it could only take one that they say, yes, that was triggered. They don't have to trigger all 10. They just have to say one applies. That's what I'm
I
saying.
guess I'm confused.
Yeah.
Is there a specific sort of one that is causing concern for you?
I think it's the discretion of the planning board that they don't
Yeah.
want the planning board to have the discretion to waive.
We want it, no, we want the public to have some ability to inform the planning board. I know you have all those standards, and maybe one of those, actually, maybe one of the criteria they should consider is public opinion.
So
You can't do that.
You can't do that?
Sorry, you can't. No, you
Let's
can't.
poll the audience.
There are cases
All right.
about that, but again,
I'm
going
willing to-
back, the public has the right to discuss it at the public hearing. There's
Right, I hear you,
already
I hear
a
you.
public
All
hearing.
right, I'm willing to move on unless you want to do anything else.
Yeah, we all know the public hearing's basically at the end of the road, when most of the heavy lifting's already been done. So
I
at
don't know
this,
what that means.
well, they've come up with a design plan, the planning board's gone through it, there's been a lot of work involved. And if all of a sudden, we didn't want you to waive that, and we disagree with that.
Okay, but that's everything, not just the waiver, that's the whole process.
Also, during the process, they don't block their emails from being able to be sent or come in from people that may have that concern. There is communication still prior to that. And if it's usually a waiver-based application, it's usually not a one-meeting application in the first
Yeah,
place.
I'm just thinking about when on Milton planning, like we have, it's usually parking that's waived.
Yeah,
It's
Green
always
space
brought
area,
up, they request it because they're saying, we can't meet the standard usually because of constraints on the size or orientation of the property. Like, it's usually discussed very
Right,
early,
Right, to
so.
me, that's a huge significant.
right, but.
No, but it's a matter of like,
Sean,
So what I'm
the
saying-
biggest waiver for me, not to interrupt you, but just to be clear, is green space versus parking. The intermixing between that, usually you'll trigger one problem if you meet the other. And so the waiver allows you basically to say to the planning board, which you place more emphasis on or more want on in this thing. Sorry.
thank you. So in one case I'm thinking of in Milton, there was a daycare applicant asking for a waiver on parking. You can take and determine it, like it was discussed, well, okay, when is the uses, drop off? Drop off was the most concern. We did discuss, I mean, in the end, we asked them, can you talk to your neighbor and figure out a parking sharing thing? It comes out and you can discuss, it doesn't mean they're gonna waive it, but they can ask for it, it could be part of the discussion, when you get to, especially the public hearing. But as far as I can tell, there's always been a lot of upfront discussion because they wouldn't meet it otherwise without discussing it. And it was for this particular property, it was just literally because Milton's kind of regs are just like right up against the line, and there happened to be a fence there. And what we asked is, can you talk to your neighbor and take down the fence and use more of the property? So, but my point is, it does come up. I think it comes up very early in the process. I don't know what our board exactly requires, but we
Can I make-
always have public comments.
Can I make
so.
a suggestion? why don't we require that we basically have an engineer present for our site plan meetings, when site plan is going to be covered, and the requirement in an engineering letter, response letter, or, the issuance of a letter that usually ticks off, this doesn't meet standard, or whatever, identification of waivers most likely needed in those situations, so that it is upfront. I feel like we are one of those.
You want to include that in the mailers?
Can I stop for 1 second?
Just a question.
I was going to say, I feel like we are a municipality that doesn't do that enough. I think Ballston does it, I think Milton does it, I think Malta does it. And the cost should be borne by the applicant in these situations, okay? But I think that we've tripped on our way getting to there a couple of times when they tried to do it because it wasn't standardized and nobody knew what the heck to do with it. This way, waivers up front, identification by the professional of what that's going to entail. MJ used to give us letters all the time like that in Ballston, as you know, okay, you're going to be seeking this waiver, that waiver, or
Right.
you're not meeting something.
Right, yeah, they have a great chart. This complies, this needs a waiver.
Yeah.
Or special permit.
That wouldn't be in the code anywhere, though.
I think
I think we've denoted policy on this
A
internally.
schedule,
It's not-
it's pretty similar to a schedule so that you can change it easily.
We make it part of the
Application.
Yeah,
planning application, the determination that there's going to be an escrow for an engineer review letter at the very least, and we go from
all
there.
right. That's a good suggestion, thank you. And then to add to that, there was a sentence in the draft that was deleted. I asked why, but I never got an answer. That said that all planning documents will be made available to the public within the reasonable timeframe upon request.
Oh, that was deleted because it has to be on the website at least 24 hours before the meeting. So it's already by law, it has to be on the website,
State law.
state law.
All planning documents, okay.
Anything for any
Oh,
boards has to
okay.
be on the website.
And 24 hours is we couldn't make it 48, it has to be 24.
So,
Or-
I mean, you could make it 48, but the language of the state law is 24. You could be
All
more
right.
restricted if you wanted,
Okay.
but
Thank you.
a lot of things come out that day before,
Right.
like the engineer's letters a lot of times come out the day
Oh, yeah.
before.
Yeah.
I've been to that test a couple times.
All right, thanks. I'm okay skipping historic district, do that later. I'm okay, so stop me if anyone wants to, but I'm okay not dealing with changing R2S to R2. I'm okay not talking about ADUs because we've done that. I mean, I'd like to have them in there, but maximum building sizes, this also goes with the maximum story thing. Number
Page 15.
17, trying to move.
He's trying to move.
Right.
Yeah, I was just curious.
No, does anyone have any interest in maximum building size? I do, based on, the whole Walmart experience and in the back of my head and what could happen in Gateway District. Obviously, I'm a believer in limiting the size of buildings and limiting the size and the density of development. What do people think?
Ben, I promise not to build a Walmart. It's okay, does that make you feel better?
Someone else might.
I guess I just had a question how this jives with, like, for instance, I put in here Maplewood Manor and the Kent Street and Ralph Street warehouses would exceed your
Knowledge.
Well,
Yeah, so I guess,
this is
like,
in Gateway, so it's not
only
residential.
gateways you're talking about? Okay.
Well,
No, you said
downtown.
downtown 30, Gateway 650, obviously these numbers are just beginning numbers, but it wasn't about residential.
Is there anything downtown that could be that size?
I'm more concerned about Gateway,
What?
which has wide
Rats
open,
can't, right?
Somebody good at,
yeah, I'm not sure what the building size is, but,
I guess my question is, what is our
How big is
answer?
Angelicus?
6 acres, I mean, so maybe
There's
talk about
multiple
the building
buildings.
itself. Hold on, let me see if I can figure it out.
so I guess the concept of whether you want a maximum building size, that we can deal with the number after this meeting. So we probably can't do it now, but are people,
80,000.
What was that?
Between 1945 and 1950, an 80,000 square foot building was constructed on the eastern portion of the site to replace many of the former 15 tannery buildings. However, some sources also mention a different figure of 66,700 square feet. So somewhere between 66,700 and 80,000. How's that?
And the Hannaford is 40,000, just for comparison.
Which
So-
one?
But your Hannaford,
It's not his Hannaford. Come on.
I think it's 36, actually.
is it 36? Oh, it's a little less.
Like,
Um,
I think I said in principle, like intent, yes. How we get there, don't know.
All right,
I
so
mean,
you're.
how big is job lot? Anybody know? I thought I wrote that.
All right, well, are we comfortable with putting some size limit on or no? It sounds like you may be, Bernadette.
I literally says, I'm curious what Chris thinks, what the best approach is. I get the intent, because I don't necessarily want that kind of
He shies
development.
away from it.
Frontage limitations.
Huh?
He had mentioned frontage limitation for this as well.
Okay, I think if frontage definitely makes sense for like downtown. Yeah, I don't really want big boxes in the gateway either, so I don't really know what the answer is exactly, but I
So
mean, job lot, I don't know.
can we
but it's-
agree to pursue an appropriate size limit? Mary, what do you think?
I'm not good with sizes,
Okay.
sorry.
But do you think we should put any cap on building size?
Chris, what did you have a thought on this? Like, the intent is not to have development that doesn't make sense for this village, right? So, such as
I mean,
big boxes.
If you agree as a board that you don't want to have like a big box type of store in the Gateway District, then I think we can find the standard, those generally have standard sizes that, that works for their business model, and we can limit it below that so that you wouldn't get a Target if that's not what you want. Generally, yeah, as Sean said, I generally prefer not to limit the size of the building itself, because to me, if you have a narrow lot, it doesn't really impact the visual look of the village. If you have a building that's sort of oriented narrow, facing the public, facing the right of way, and then goes deeply back. I think I gave an example in my email of this great inn that's in Western Mass in Lenox, and it's extremely a huge building when you actually look at it from an aerial, but when you're on the street, on Main Street, it fits in perfectly with the surrounding area, and it's really attractive, and you would never know until you kind of go along the side that it's probably 200 feet long.
Yeah, I mean, to me, that solves the visual problem, but not necessarily the congestion and other kinds of issues that come with it.
So my main concern, so in BOA, we've been talking about the job lot location, and again, that's why I'm like, what is that size? Because there's potential to develop the frontage of that a bit more with like pad site sort of things. So I just wouldn't want to constrain that.
Job Lots building at 2035 Doubleday Avenue is 39,288 square feet.
Okay,
That's a big building.
there's a grocery store.
It was with Grand Union.
Right.
Yeah, 40,000,
All right.
grocery store.
So, like, I guess I just want to be cognizant of that. I could probably reach out to Mary, who's the planner that we've been working with on this, see if she has thoughts. I don't know if that's helpful. Like, I agree with the intent. I don't know what the answer is.
All right, so
What's
let's
left
ask
to go
Chris to work on it.
The Chris too, obviously, if I wouldn't want to leave
All
out
right,
Chris on that.
thank you.
I mean,
The,
I do think 50,000 would feel like a reasonable number, because I think that would, I didn't meet with the Labella folks, and so I did see the plans of what the thoughts were, and I don't remember what it was, but just from looking at it, I think that would be below 50,000, but I could confirm with Norabel, who's running that project, if you want.
Yeah, that'd be good, because also, I'm not really good at scale stuff, but like Ricketts, I don't know how much that would even allow on there, but yeah, if we can just confer with Norabel, that'd be great.
Thank you.
Okay, streaming
All right.
is
Yeah,
something
we
that
can-
we should put into policy,
Yeah,
or
that's
if we
fine.
ever get to there, okay,
Yeah, so
change breaking ground
just-
definition. I think, if I'm reading between, let me just try to fly through this for everybody's
Yeah,
sake.
go ahead.
Breaking ground definition, you're trying to basically say when somebody's vested in a site plan approval, and I'm saying it's not always just excavation, it's also steps taken toward secure financing and things like that. You gotta be careful, because we have a very short site plan period. Even if we extended it 18 months, it's still less than most areas. So I would say to you that you have to be broader than just a physical work definition in these types of things sometimes, because of
Okay.
that, okay?
You did expand all the life cycle of this.
A little though, it's still small compared to most municipalities.
All right.
Alternates.
No, can we stop for a
What?
second?
Oh, sorry.
I don't think secure financing is sufficient.
What? Wait,
It absolutely is.
I couldn't-
It is usually breaking ground, doing excavation.
That's not accurate.
I would like to be consistent with other
I
municipalities.
think it is true. It's not just getting financing.
In, how many times have you secured financing for?
I don't know, but my standards when I have to approve stuff is, or when we talk about it, is pretty consistent. Have you broken
Then
ground?
expand
Have
it
you
2
been
years,
charged?
because there's no way you can have both in this day and age.
You're giving them 2 years, right?
No, you're not in here. I think it's 18 months.
I thought there was a proposal to
So I go
make it
2
to
years?
2 years.
That I can understand, but unfortunately, by the time you get your stamp plans and everything, and then get to get the financing and everything else, that's where things get a little choked
But
up.
that's when that happens, we just provide an extension.
It's-
That happens a
yeah.
lot, and
You're not guaranteed the extension.
but I
Well,
think
you've
the
already
planning
changed this
board
to 2
has
years.
generally been
Right.
understanding if
Is
they're.
it a 2 years? Hold on.
Well, it was 1 year and you, in your handwritten notes, changed it 2 and now it says 2.
Okay, I thought you went
So
18 months
you
on it,
changed it
so
till
if
2.
that's the case, if it's 2, I'm
And
fine
then
with it.
you extended it 90 days to a year for the extension. So they would have 3 years theoretically.
Which I
Right,
think
but
is
it's not,
too much.
it's not a matter of right to get the extension.
Well,
No, but so ideally, if people are saying, hey, we need things redeveloped and it'd be good for the community, such as in Milton, we have done this, we have understood and given.
I'm
extensions.
okay at 2 years, I'm saying. 18 months is tight for.
well, why not
those-
1 year and then a 1-year extension?
Because then you're really going into the.
I mean,
problem.
I get his point, 2 years makes more sense.
Yes.
However, I like the idea of having it be an extension at that point, because there may have been laws that have changed, environmental laws on the other laws, and they should conform to those if they haven't done
I
it.
mean, 2 years is a long time to not do anything.
It's really not.
My experience on the municipal side, not the developer side, but the municipal side, is that it is actual work. It is groundbreaking.
Right.
It is, you can show that you obtained financing, but that's not really what the codes say, and that's not what the boards look to. Is also my experience, and again, it's your code, you do what you want, that if you have shown that you've actually done some work, even if you can't just sit around for 2 years and do nothing. If you've shown you've done some work, they will give you the extension fairly easily. You're not
I guess what-
entitled to the extension 100%. You're not entitled to it. You're not vested for an extension. But
I think
I
it's
not
a
really
good check
seen.
too.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, I was talking.
No, I didn't hear what you said.
It's a good
Um,
choice.
I think it's a good check, just in case, to make sure that if the state or the feds or somebody has passed different laws, well, okay, you can get the extension provided that you conform
The-
the latest standards.
So one of the issues was the length allowed, and the other was, what is the marker that work has actually started?
Town of Ballston's 2 years for your site plans, correct?
I believe so.
Yeah.
But work has to start, it's not financing.
We've said it now multiple times. If it's a 2 years, I can buy into the work starting. The danger is that it's 12 to 18 month zone is great for financing ability in this day and age. It's just tough out there. And so you gotta be cognizant of it. And, again, you're not guaranteed anything on that extension.
So then I'd like to have the extension be 90 days, not a whole nother year, to go to 3 years.
Just from what I'm seeing now, it's currently says the planning board, you have to request it, obviously.
Yep.
For reasonable cause, extend the original time limit imposed for a period not to exceed the length of the original period, unless a prior resolution provides it, and you have to pay a fee.
So another 2 years?
It says extend, yeah.
That's too much.
That's what the town does. The town you operated in on a planning board.
I don't think it goes for another 2 years.
Yes, it's a 2-year extension on 2 years. Because the strip mall thing over there went for 2 more years. Flat out, I can
I
tell
don't
you
think
that.
I don't think it's automatic.
It's not automatic.
No, none
No,
of
no,
this
I
is
don't think it has to
automatic.
be 2 years. I think they could have said 1 year. I don't know that it was in the law.
I think there,
Well, it says not to exceed the length.
you also fight a consistency issue if you differentiate periods too, don't forget.
Oh, are you sure? I thought I read in there that it would change from 90 days to 1 year. So I'm not familiar with what you just read, Carl, but somewhere it said site plan approval deadline, it was 1 year, now it's 2 years, and also the possible extension was from 90 days, now it's 1 year.
I guess in any event, the real question is not the time. It sounds like it's 2 years for the application. You're saying you want it to be less than 1 year, more than 90 days for the extension of time. And then the second question is, what is action? Like, what is construction, actual construction? And what is that best you interest in? And I think that's in there, but it's up to you.
It's vague. I think it just says if construction started. I don't know, Bernadette.
No, I
if
think
you're-
actual construction is defined. Chris, is
Yeah,
it
not-
defined?
Not much.
But we can look.
All right.
If it's not, it should be.
So maybe think about.
My
defining that.
concern is that I've seen it happen 100 times. Go out, do some rough grading or clearing and grubbing. Oh, I started construction. That had nothing to do with construction. Construction is excavation for footings or foundations, whereas that is actual construction. So that's my only concern. Somebody can push some dirt around and say, oh, I started. So
Exact length. I don't disagree with that. I mean, people start in earnest. It's really kind of the point that we want them to.
Actual construction is defined, I'm sorry.
No, you're fine.
Actual construction is defined in here.
What's it say?
The placing of construction materials in their permanent position, fastened in a permanent manner, except that where a basement or cellar is being excavated, such excavation shall be deemed to be actual construction, where demolition or removal of an existing structure has been substantially begun preparatory to rebuilding. Such demolition and removal shall be deemed to be actual construction. On an application made prior to the expiration of the 2 years, the planning board may extend the site plan approval for an additional 365 days. That's where that is.
So-
Milton's is, oh, sorry.
the other rub there is the way that reads, so could the applicant who may not own the property at the time, but the owner who may sell it to him at some point, once he gets approval, could do work and that would qualify as the start of construction?
The property owner?
Property owner?
Work in furtherance, but I mean, then that person would have to be getting insurance and everything else to do the work. I think you're going a little bit far afield on that one. I'm not gonna lie to you on that.
Okay, so,
That's a pretty good definition. I think I was reading it.
I mean, I think that's good. It's
Part of
just,
the document, they didn't have that.
my concern is if there's a handshake deal and say, hey, you start doing this stuff because they want to get rid of the building anyway, and, construction started. Even though I haven't gotten approval, and I'm not gonna buy the property
Well,
until I
no,
have
you need
approval.
approval. It says site
need
plan
approval.
approval
Yeah, it says
expires 2 years after it is granted if actual construction is not commenced. So you
Right,
need the
doesn't
site plan
count.
approval first.
right, but that doesn't mean you own the property yet.
Yeah, but that has nothing to do with the village.
Okay.
I mean, that's just between the property owner and the contract vendee.
I guess the point is it doesn't count because they didn't have a plan approved in place. So that's the way I'm hearing it.
Yeah, you need to have the approval,
Yeah,
and the whole actual construction part is just the vested interest to continue the approval.
The approval is germane to the property, correct?
The approval runs with the property, yeah.
So either way. Okay, the other things I was trying to speak through, sorry, was,
Milton is not as long as Ballston, I'm just.
what is it?
Expiration of approval, construction of use must be commenced with 1 year from the date of granting variance, and all work must be completed within 2 years. If work is not completed within 2 years, the applicant must apply for an extension not to exceed 1 year from the Board of Appeals. No additional filing fee will be charged.
Oh, so you guys are charging a filing fee?
No, it says no,
No, here.
oh, yeah.
All right, well, the compromise can be 2 years for the initial and 1 year for,
That's what it says.
the extension, we have a good definition of construction.
So don't
and
change
That
it
should
then.
be plenty.
Okay.
I think it's more than generous. All right, the 2-year for alternates is not a big deal to me, but I think the majority, I think Mary, myself and Sean are happy with 2 years. And it seems to be according to Carla, the most common length, so can we just go with 2 years?
What is it in Ballston?
I don't know what the alternates serve. I don't think it's 1 year though.
What's the rationale for not having them be the same?
We've just seen some atrocious situations with, that we can't replace them, and it's becoming more and more necessary, I feel like, to be able to make sure we have full boards, because people don't come to meetings all the time.
Well, if they don't, they gotta meet their requirements, they gotta go to the, we can put in the zoning, you gotta get the training, you gotta go to the meetings, that's part of, everyone has to do a good job. A regular planning board member could get the boot if they don't do a good
I
job.
mean, we don't have any language where we can suspend a board member.
There is.
Alternate members of the planning board, zoning board of appeals shall be appointed by the town board or other duly authorized appointing authority for a term of 1 year, and that's Ballston.
That's 1 year, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, I mean, I don't care that
And
much,
you only have
but
2, you only
2
have a
years,
maximum of 2, I think.
I think, alternates,
2 people.
alternates aren't always notified of the meeting, they'll go to every meeting, they may need 2 years to understand how the planning board, especially because the planning board doesn't meet every month, unlike the town of Ballston and probably Milton, that meets regularly, the planning board here doesn't meet
Haven't
regularly.
they been pretty busy this
So-
year?
So the ability, yeah, they could be, it's on and off, who knows? But, the ability to get that kind of, the experience you need to feel competent as a planning board member, is gonna take more than a year. And then you have a good backup, you have a reserve bench to then fill planning board with people who know what they're doing versus, newbies. So to me, that's why you would do it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have a problem with 1 or 2 years if you're basing this on attendance, but if we're like, well, this alternate didn't get along with a planning board member, so we're gonna cut them loose, that doesn't seem appropriate.
Well, the language doesn't allow that. There's a specific way to remove planning board members.
Yeah, but they just be gone after a year. So anyway.
No, it says it's up to the board. They didn't put in the code, which is probably why.
So this is, I mean, it's a situation where 3 of us are okay with 2 years, can we just do 2 years? I mean, do you feel very strongly about this?
I kind of do, because as much as people say that they haven't had the opportunity to go, some folks just don't go when
Well, then
even
they
there's
should
an
be kicked
opportunity.
off. I agree, if they're not going, if they,
Well, you have to go through the process. You can't just kick them off.
well, yeah, no, you have a
Hearing.
standard, you say you didn't go
You
to
have to have a hearing
kick someone off? Okay, so that you do.
by
you
the
do
mayor.
that.
The mayor is the one who gets to remove them.
Right, you have to do it by cause, but there, it should be specified, all right, they missed 3 meetings
It is.
this year.
It's specified in here.
What's it say?
They may be removed by the mayor after a public hearing for cause, including but not limited to non-compliance with minimum training requirements, non-compliance with meeting attendance requirements, violation of chapter 27, that's the ethics code, and or violation of applicable state statutes.
Right, so we have training requirements that are specific, we don't have attendance requirements aren't specified anywhere that I read. So that could be, further
I
specified,
think we should put attendance requirements.
they missed 3 meetings in a row or something.
Well, it's gotta be specific, and you
Yeah.
can't just say,
Meeting
it can't be
requirements,
arbitrary. I
yeah. Say
mean,
they missed 3 meetings in a row.
Currently, our code doesn't require alternates to attend.
No,
Unless
alternates are
called.
not required to attend.
Well, in Milton, we do
I'll make them,
go.
then let's say they have to attend.
Say whatever you want. I'm just writing it down.
I mean, would that
Would you
solve your problem,
compensate them?
Frank, your
Yeah, they have to
concern?
be,
No,
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's worth compensating them as long as they go, because there's not consistency with some of our alternates. So I think that is the place to learn. When I was an alternate, I went to every meeting that was available, and you learn a lot through observation, so.
Paul, seeing that you're on the planning board and your planning board's gonna get a chance to give thoughts on this anyway, up next, I mean, where's your thought on the alternate scheme and how it works?
I think you have to maintain because most of our meetings are 2 or 3 meetings long.
Most of the applications,
Site
you're
plan will
saying,
come
yeah.
through, and so to hear about everything that's going on, you've got to at least be 2 meetings in a row, sometimes 3.
Do you have any feeling on 1 year or 2 years and how it's been working? What is it, currently 1 year?
There weren't enough meetings in the first year.
Well, that's my point, like, there may not be enough, yeah. So let's do 2 years, and we'll put in criteria for dismissal, removal.
Well,
I
mandate,
hate having to hold a public hearing and
I know,
embarrass somebody, that's the problem I really have with it.
Right, I hear you, but
But they're an officer, you have to.
it's their bad if they're
Well,
not.
no, but it
If it's
expires
a
in 1
year,
year.
it just
Oh, I see.
expires. I still, personally, I
You can
still
also
like
be an
the,
alternate and never have to participate in the board in that year.
what?
But you go and get paid, that's what it sounds like the board wants to do.
Yeah, because
Kind of like you're an
fine with that.
alternate juror, you have to go.
Maybe you get paid less, they get paid something.
I forget what it is.
No, we have
It's the same,
a
it's the
defined
same.
number for what an alternate gets paid per meeting.
So-
yeah.
You already did?
Yeah, there's already
I went to
is.
5 meetings before I was asked to sit in.
But you went, which is good, because you,
Yeah. Yeah, I think you need a minimal level of experience. I mean, that's why I don't like 1 year.
So.
I mean, Paul, you were allowed to ask questions, right, as an alternate?
I was a member.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think we can address your concerns, and then we'd have people who have some experience.
Not confused what my concerns are in your mind.
Well,
I think the
yeah, you
time,
that people haven't attended,
the
that
rub.
you know, they're not.
Right, my concern was I don't want to have hold a public hearing to.
That's why I
get rid
think
of-
a year
Yeah.
length requirement to attend.
I think you just make it clear to them, hey, you gotta show up. If you don't show up, I'm gonna have to have a hearing. You tell them up front, this is what you signed up for, so.
I don't know, I think 1 year's fine.
What do you think, Mary?
She thinks it's time to go.
I'm thinking, that, I mean, make it mandatory that they go to all of the meetings, they know what the rules are and the repercussions, and you do learn by going to the meetings, and I think 2 years is, I still like 2 years, because I think 1 year is not enough exposure.
I guess my point is that that's in discussion, right? Like, the mayor would understand, oh, this is a quiet year, you know? If they say, I feel like I haven't had enough opportunities, I mean, I think that's taken into consideration, but I think it's good to be flexible and keep that 1 year reappointment sort of thing, but it's not like they're a board member, like a full-fledged board member, where, you know, you want continuity there. I guess, I don't know.
I think
just
you get buy-in with 2 years, you know, if someone signs up for 2 years, like, okay, I'm in. 1 year, they'll be like, maybe they're half paying attention, and like, I'm just don't care, I'm gonna be gone in a year anyway.
But so that's the point. I think it's good for the mayor to have that assessment, the chair would have that assessment, and
No, what I'm saying is, someone who commits to 2 years is gonna be more serious, and they'll take their time more seriously, they'll probably invest in training more seriously.
I'm surprised you're not going after 5 years of a membership, to be honest with you.
Well, that's why I think 2 years is like minimum, like, 2 years is nothing for an appointment of a planning board.
I think 5 years is just a long time for a member to not have to be reappointed.
Yeah, that's
I think that's
another-
longer, no, that's,
Does it stay long?
All right, so let's go for 2 years for now, just because that's where
I don't
Majority
agree with
are-
that, but okay, at least it's on record.
Site plan for accessory structures over a certain size. Carla had laid out something that I think was like, yeah, yeah, you're awesome. Legally permitted to require site plan review for accessory structures, board decision, the Village of Chatham, as accessory uses structures used in connection with the principal structure or use subject to site plan review shall be subject to the same rule requirements as principal structure or use unless otherwise specified in this chapter.
And what Sean suggested is apply that at least to structures that may need a foundation. Like
Yeah.
something a significant structure, like,
A permanent structure.
right.
A permanent structure needs footings or
I'm
foundations.
not sure though why that's the trigger, yeah, I'll be honest with you.
Because it require design of footing or foundation.
Now there's no
Lisa's
change.
house, I don't think it's a basement, and then she puts a accessory structure that doesn't have one, right? I mean, then
But
You can have
what
a
is it built
cement
on?
found.
It's gotta have footings or a
Oh,
foundation.
okay, so it's not, I get what you're saying.
It's not saying basement.
Yeah.
Gotcha, my bad.
Yeah, to me, it makes sense because it'll be bigger and more and permanent. So it should get some review versus no review at all.
I mean, somebody who gets, like I've mentioned before, goes to Home Depot and gets one of those sheds, theoretically, that's an accessory structure, but it has no foundation, it just sits.
Well, there's
Rails.
a size requirement, usually those sheds don't exceed though, isn't it?
Typically,
Well,
but
do you think they need site plan review?
No, I'm saying that his example, I don't think covers what the intention is on this.
right.
No, it is. It's the example of what's not needed in comparison or contrast to what may be needed.
I guess I'm just thinking, like, you think a garage needs to come for site plan review if it's fitting within our like size standards and all, like, I guess I'm not understanding.
Well, are you building a garage on a slab? If
But-
you're building on a slab,
But
you
it's
need
a pretty
footings.
standard
underneath the
building
slab.
though. You think we need to see every garage go through site plan review? I guess I just don't understand that. I think it would get triggered when you're like, oh, I want to be higher than what you're normally allowed, or if it's encroaching
I'm
your
fine with
setbacks,
a
you know what I
site
mean?
plan going to the building inspector.
So you're.
And that's not a site
that-
plan.
That's a
not a
permit,
site- yeah,
permit
that's a permit
application.
process.
Yeah.
Well, then it has to go through the planning board then, I guess.
But you just said you're okay. I guess it's just, I think it's a little
Somebody needs to
atypical.
review it.
Yeah, the
The building
inspector.
inspector, he has to make sure it fits within code, has to fit building code, have to fit our code. If it doesn't, he flags it and says, you need to talk to ZBA.
All right.
It's not standard, I
Yeah,
think.
there is a check and balance in there.
Yeah, okay.
But are we worried that accessory structures could be very big if we're doing non-residential uses in residential zones? Or,
They have to still meet the requirements, and so you can't get that big because you probably blow something else in that.
well, if you have a
operation.
big backyard,
Well, then again, didn't we say earlier that even if there's a residence and then you have a non-residential use, it still has to conform to the residential code? Rather than, say, business.
well, the code is
or
right
whatever.
now, no site plan review for accessory structures. So
What I'm saying is it can't go beyond what the residential code allows.
Yeah, if you can meet the
Like
setback
the-
requirements.
Yeah,
it's gonna be a
bulk
challenge.
and stuff.
I think the hangup here is, there is a site plan review by the building inspector.
No,
No, there's a permit.
yes.
But with the permit, they're gonna have to provide a site plan.
No,
No. The-
Plans. They'll
not
present
site plan.
plans.
It's a terminology. It's not a
Oh,
site
okay.
plan.
Yeah.
The site plan
You're
is
caught on a
specific.
word that doesn't fit.
Right.
Well, no,
It's
that's
just
the
something else.
actual engineering technical term is site plan.
But the zoning technical term is not site plan.
is this standard
If you
for
present
other
plans
towns?
in an application,
Yeah,
all
we
the
wouldn't-
permits
we
to the
wouldn't-
building
We
inspector,
wouldn't, like,
they'll
if it
review.
was outside of what the code allowed, then it would go to ZBA. Like, there's no reason for the planning board to see a garage, as
No,
long
no,
as it fits
but
within building.
I guess
code.
I was heightened to this piece because of all the non-residential potential uses.
It still has to follow residential code, because if the primary building, what we're talking about, this was
Right.
earlier we discussed, I forgot the section, but if it's primarily a residential property, and even though there's an alternate use in the secondary building, it still has to follow all the rules of our zoning, so it has to be fit within
It could be
residential.
another house-sized building, if it's a big enough
How are
yard.
you
How
gonna
are you
do
gonna
that on a setback requirement?
If it's a big enough
A rear
yard,
setback and a front setback, you still down.
I can't see what your
But
property
then
is
you're
talking
having
about in
two principal
residential.
uses on the building. You can't have two principal uses on the property. Two houses, you can have two houses on the property.
It's an accessory.
If it is a
and
house.
we're going back to
living
the
in.
non-residential use, I'm just thinking of you have someone living there and they have a business, and they build some big building in their backyard. And you're saying they can't do that because they need a frontage, or they need, you
I
know,
don't think
they
it
build
can exceed
they
that.
build another building in their backyard, it's as big as their house, but it's used for storage or whatever for their business.
They're allowed to do that. It's a pole barn, basically. It would just be a
All
shed.
right, so
They're allowed to do that.
no site plan review for.
No, but it goes to the
house-sized-
building
The
inspector.
building inspector.
And
looks
he
through
looks
it.
at it, makes sure it's safe and fits with, isn't encroaching on setbacks.
Like, are-
There was a
Yeah.
pole barn at a property on Middle Line in Galloway, I think it was, and the question was, back and forth. At one point, they had one business, but at the end of the day, they decided not to go with that business, but still needed a pole barn. It did not need our approval at that point, so.
All right, so
I mean,
no one's concerned, I
I
guess. we'll
think,
move
yeah,
on.
there's a lot of terminology here, because in the permit, either an architect or engineer should provide stamped site plans so that you see the accessory structure relative to the entire site, so you can determine.
Take the word site off in this case, and it doesn't change the meaning of what you're talking about, though, okay?
Okay.
Stamped plans,
All right.
marked final.
Okay. All right, people think it's all right.
In your open space situation, I think you kind of learned that what Chris was warning on, I think, which was essentially, you need to make sure it's an entire property and not piecemeal it, because you can't really, and it should be public property, not.
Right, and he did, he answered, and thank you, Chris, for answering the questions, and these properties fit that criteria that you just mentioned. They're public and they're one lot, the Disco Trail, Wiswall, Old Iron Spring, Kelly Park, Village Pool, Colonial Hills Park, Victory Circle. Those all fit the criteria, so let's just make sure they're included in the plan.
I'm
That's all.
not positive on Victory Circle, to be honest with you, because I don't know what the delineation is with our water tower over there versus that.
Water tower, that's not in Victory Circle.
It's in the same general zone, is it not?
He's talking about
It's not where the.
Victory Circle.
Chris, check this. All right, can we put them in and then Chris can, or someone can
Yeah.
double check that?
Yeah.
All right, so we're gonna put them in, and I suggest we put them in the text and the map, because the map's hard to read, and so everyone can be clear on what the areas are. So thank you very much.
Chris, you got that, or you look confused?
I'm confused about when you said put it in the text. So you want a listing of this?
Yeah, yeah. Because the maps, everyone says the map is hard to read.
It needs more street names.
Well, I think that's gonna be very difficult
Yeah.
to do that. That's gonna be a giant file.
So,
What?
Chris, your
Or just-
concern is like, where would you put open space? You're creating your open space district, or like, what is the concern you have?
I'm fine if we want to add the list. I think that's fine. If it's just gonna be a list of the
Yeah,
names of the parks. I feel like that could be a little open to interpretation potentially, but I don't think it's the end of the world. It's not gonna make a huge.
all right, thank you.
Yeah.
It's a little inconsistent in the sense that you don't list, it'd almost be like in your residence R1B listing every single parcel that's part of R1B. Like that's kind of the equivalent of what you're doing if you're listing the park. So I'll do however you want, but it is inconsistent in that sense.
Yeah, but it's a very small number, I mean, I think it's okay.
So there was one other thing, I don't think it was on that sheet. There was a change to, I don't know if it's the radius or the distance for notification of development from 500 to 300 feet. Can somebody explain why?
Even in Milton, a densely populated area like Milton, I think it was 300 feet. Or an area, so it's less densely populated area.
I just don't understand why we're being less transparent.
From zero?
Yeah, right now
No,
there's
from five,
zero.
it was
No.
500 in there, and you changed it to 300.
Yeah, so somewhere it was established by the ZAC early on that 500 was the number. I just don't know why we.
Because we pay for them, first off, those notices.
No,
No, actually, the
developer pays for it.
taxpayers who pay for
No,
that.
the developer pays for it.
Not according to our code.
Yeah,
right?
no, we changed it. We
think we were gonna
mail
change
it.
it.
Yeah, we
That-
mail it, but they pay for it.
Now, that said, you've got a densely populated village in which you're gonna be basically giving the whole village a notice.
No,
500
that's not the whole
feet? That's a
village.
tenth of a month.
At 500 feet on a radius,
It's not that.
That's a
many
tenth of a month.
I mean, 300 feet is like
Yeah.
3 houses in every direction.
it's 6% of the village.
That would be, if you had 50-foot wide lots, that would be 10 lots.
10 lots. And
10
some lots are
houses.
more than 50.
And the radius is built on the points of the property, outer points of the property, not the center of the property, just as a reminder.
That's all right.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I don't
Some places
see
have
why more
1,000.
transparency is a bad thing.
And Milton has 300, and
What's Ballston? I don't know.
I mean, if we're having a developer pay for it, why is this a argument?
Well, the
Yeah, I
question
think
is, if you
people-
have like a small applicant, are you gonna want, I don't know.
It's not gonna be that much money. It's a mailing, to, maybe, 30 houses or less, you know, it's not, and so we're talking $100.
No, it'd probably be about
$200.
100 houses probably.
Maybe, I don't know if it would be.
In a radii?
telecommunications in Ballston's 1,500 feet.
Well, telecommunication, yeah.
Crazy.
Cell towers.
Yeah, I know, but wow. That is distant. No kidding.
So, well, the compromise would be 400.
I mean, I don't see a problem with 500 if somebody
Right.
else is paying
I
for
mean,
it.
I'd do 500.
Yeah.
Let people know.
Somebody else is paying for it, but I believe the village is doing the work.
Yeah.
Unless
Yeah.
we changed that, which is not a bad idea to require, a lot of places do require the applicant themselves to do the mailing.
Yeah, but we used to have that, we
Yeah,
backed off that.
We changed, we
Well,
Yeah,
changed,
sure.
Because
Provides-
why?
Why,
I would make
we
it.
just have them do certified letters.
it'll just happen. How do we know they'll do it? How do we track
Doesn't
it?
matter, it's not your
Make it
call.
part
You
of-
make it their requirement.
No, how do we track that they've done it?
have
So
to
they,
sign
they,
it.
they do, what do you call it?
Affidavit?
Yeah,
You sign, they
Yep.
receive the letter, signed letter, so
because they're certified letters.
certified letters, that's the word I was looking for.
It's not just mail, they're certified
certified
letters that have to go
letters.
out to everybody. So when you say it's just,
Right.
you know,
So that would increase the burden on obviously the property owner. I'm okay with the village managing it because the village will make the process efficient because they'll have a routine for doing it. And they'll have a list and they'll know, and the developer, maybe the only time they ever do something like this, and it'll just take longer and be more difficult.
Yeah, so, quick question, I mean, so if, say, I'm just concerned about a small applicant, you know, like, if it's a, say we're using your 100 number, it's, you know, $5+ to send something certified, so.
Well, should we vary it by size of applicant? or-
Oh, can we even do that?
you're gonna discriminate
Yeah, I don't
based
think we can do
on
that.
the cost.
The square footage of the application?
In town of Ballston, public hearing, I believe I'm in the right section for this part. Public, the
Discriminate against
board,
rich developers.
planning board shall send or cause to be sent
Can't
notice.
discriminate against anyone, that's the point.
Notice of the public hearing to abutting property owners and those agricultural operators identified on the agriculture data statement by regular mail at least 7 days prior to the public hearing. That's abutting property owners.
Doesn't give a distance.
No. But abutting is probably not, how many feet, I'm trying to find anything else with notice in it, I just didn't see it. Yeah, site plan review, that's application for approval, that's general, it's abutting properties, and they just changed theirs. Well, this is 300 feet, like I said, that's what I found.
Right, why don't, we could compromise at 400. The original was 500, I don't know who put 500.
No,
Chris,
the original, where we stand right now is 0, so.
No, the
it's-
original draft, before you changed it to 3, it said 500. Chris, do you have a place that you took 500 from?
Oh, I don't recall at this point where that number came from.
Okay.
I can't recall, sorry.
Marilyn, was that a consensus of the ZAC?
The
Do you recall?
consensus of the ZAC to have the notification done by the village.
Or the distance? Do you recall if the distance was determined?
I know that they basically wanted, the greater transparency, and that originally there was a lot of language on there for the applicant to have the burden to do that, which people felt was not appropriate and not able to be monitored,
Okay.
so.
Can we go with 400?
No, I'm telling you, flat out, these numbers are wildly disproportionate when you look at what's around you in the towns. What's that?
What city of Saratoga?
Interesting question. How about Scotia, Old Scotia?
That too, either, both.
So when it says
Curious.
for a development, what does that, is that anything that's built?
Well, it depends, if you're looking for a public hearing, or if you're looking for something that doesn't require a public hearing. If something doesn't require a public hearing, you still have to give notice to the abutting neighbors that there's an application pending. What you're talking about, this 300, 500, is for public hearings. So anything within the code that requires a public hearing, that's,
So residential uses are small time.
but they
things.
may require a public hearing.
Okay. So a single family residential would require a public hearing.
It may, depending on what
Like
the
for-
application is.
An extension of the building, it got triggered.
A special permit, anything that requires a special permit requires a public hearing. Any variance requires a public hearing. Any historic district designation requires a public hearing, so things like that. Subdivisions.
You're better at finding the things like,
Measure a street, pull up Google
I'm
and measure a
You
street.
could leave it at 300 for now, and just, again, that may not be a substantive change if that gets through to the public hearing here. And then the public says, no, we want 500, you could change that, and that wouldn't be a substantive change that you'd have to start the process over again.
Okay.
Just to move this along.
Scotia, filing declaration of complete application, planning board shall have 62 days, etc. In the event a public hearing is held, planning board shall have 62 days. Planning board shall mail notice of said hearing to the applicant at least 10 days before such hearing, and shall give public notice of said hearing in a newspaper general circulation in the village at least 5 days prior to the date thereof.
500 feet.
so it doesn't even talk about distance, it's just publication.
Yeah, that's kind of like where we are.
Perhaps one of the things also might be, keep it at 300 for now. This has to go to the planning board and the zoning board for recommendation. Those are the ones that are going to be implementing this. See what they say.
So I just pulled up Google Earth and between Pleasant Street and East High Street on Eastern Ave is 500 feet roughly. So what you're saying is we wouldn't notify, if somebody wanted to build a house on that at the end of the street, we wouldn't notify the people on that block on the other end that there was a development.
I'm not saying anything.
Well, that's what you're saying when you cut it to 300, it only goes halfway down the block.
500, it's about one block, like between
Yeah,
Church and Beach Street, or Beach Street and Eastern, that's about 500
yeah.
And how many houses?
here. That's it.
Well, one like.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Well, that's more than 500.
That's more than,
Okay, right here is 500.
Alright, so we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 houses. 6 houses in one direction.
So a dozen houses.
Well, if it's
Well,
a radius, wouldn't
6,
it be,
12, 48 houses, 50 houses.
Houses plus whatever's in here, but there isn't a whole lot.
About 50 houses, there's less and less.
About 50 houses.
yeah, but are people outside of that 300 feet really gonna be impacted if it's just a residential?
Well, if you think about one block away,
But are
Yeah.
they gonna be that impacted?
I mean,
I think so, people.
maybe
experience
not
the
so
block
much
around.
for our R1A, or an R1B, but an R2, that could be impactful. So,
Maybe you can change it depending on what district you're in.
I don't think I can do
Interestingly, Saratoga Springs has a notice table, like zoning text amendment, zoning map amendment, special use,
that. I don't know.
PUDB, variance or use, site plan review is only posted on property. Historic review demolition, posted on property, architectural review demolition, posted on property. Historical review demolition of significant structure, published notice mailed and posted on property.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure there's mailing in Saratoga Springs.
No,
No, look at what I've got here.
You
for
don't
site
have-
plan review, there is no mailing.
Yeah, posted on property, it's the only one check.
So 300 we're giving more than
Even
our
Saratoga
surrounding
Springs.
communities, or at least in part of Milton.
How about posting on property and 300 feet?
Well, I think it already does have posting on.
Is it there? Is it, you're right.
What?
Published notice shall include.
You have some insight, Marilyn?
Yeah, I do
Wait,
want to
wait,
say,
wait,
since you mentioned the posting on property, the zoning advisory committee had complete consensus that the posting on property, similar to the city of Saratoga Springs, what they do, was what they wanted for those major.
A sign is sufficient that states that there's no view.
It's
Yeah.
included,
Okay.
so,
I don't know.
Can we do it by zone like Mary said?
I don't know that we
No,
can.
Why
it's a
not?
due process issue.
Yeah,
You're giving everybody notice. So why are you saying that the residential people get more notice than the commercial people?
I guess, what were you thinking, Mary?
I'm fine with 3. I think it's
Because
consistent
there's
with
more,
Milton.
you're saying because there's
More
more
than what's been
impact?
given
I was-
around.
Ballston and Saratoga Springs.
Throwing something out there,
Yeah.
that it's gonna be a bigger building.
All right,
Obviously,
well, I think,
public input when we have.
I don't think there's any harm in doing 500 feet, and there's not much cost, much more additional cost, and it could be beneficial in terms of
I
transparency.
mean, I do see your point, Bernadette, and downside if it's a small, if they're gonna share the entire burden of it, that's probably not appropriate.
I'm good with 300.
And we can't differentiate by
I don't
size
think we can,
or residency?
To be discriminatory, I think at that point.
Just so you all know, I cannot find, and again, it might just be because it's 10 o'clock. It talks about published notice in the newspaper, but it doesn't talk about notice on the buildings. And again, it may be in here somewhere else, but if it's not, we can put that
Yeah,
in.
make
I don't
sure it
remember
is.
here, I don't
Yeah.
remember reading that.
Let's make sure it is. 300 gets us in par with Milton, and more than Saratoga Springs and Ballston.
All right.
Yeah, we'll look at Malta too to see if
I
we're
am off to the
shingles here.
Any others? Any other issues people want to talk about?
Not at this hour.
Can I get a motion to adjourn at 9:57 PM?
I'll make that
I'll
motion.
second.
Trustee Price-Bush, trustee Baskin, discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Have a good night, everybody.
Thanks for going
Thank
through.
you, Chris.
Yeah, thank
I'll send you what I have tomorrow, not tonight.
And thanks to board for going through those things. Appreciate it.